Uptown records started at 5. I'm Andre Harrell, Lavish, and Kim was the longest working employee. She was there from the very beginning. She was Andre's personal assistant. Kim is dead. Heavy D is dead. Andre Harrell is dead. The only two left are Puffy and Al almost died. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Heavy D was found dead, face down, and he heart attack. Andre Harrell, heart attack. Kim died from pneumonia, but there's the first coroner's report that said that she died. It was ruled a homicide, and they found toxins in her body to prove that she had been poisoned. You know, they have poisons that create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms. And then right after that, Al had a meeting, and I was going to meet up with him because we were in Vegas. And then next thing you know, you want to know what they all had in common, though? The survivors and the late of Uptown Records, they were all writing tell-all books. Andre was writing a book right before he died. Heavy D was working on a book before he died. Kim Porter was working on a book before she died. And Al B. Sure was working on the documentary of his life. And then he goes into a coma. Has Puffy ever been in a coma? Has anything happened to him? He must be the luckiest motherfucker, because it seems like everybody that worked at Uptown Records from the very beginning is gone. Just him. I guess Al disappointed you. You know, it's... I speak for you.
In January and February and March and April that pussy was getting booked this year. Opinion do I need to have? I was fucking right. I was as right as my motherfucking name. I said it when I was sitting there with them fucking ungrateful fucks over there on that blue couch. I warned Young Miami. I said, and you better run as fast as Cassie did. I fucking said that shit. Now look at it. Look at it. Fuck you mean? I am so sick and tired of
Hey guys, welcome to Low Blackburn 91. Listen, it's crazy right now. Ooh, baby, listen, we're gonna go through the 51-page document that was released concerning Cassie and Diddy. But if you've been alive long enough, you already know that Diddy has had issues, or should I say, people have been accusing Diddy of many things, right, over the course of the years. And it's not new to us. In fact, I don't think it's necessarily a surprise that Cassie's probably come out and said that she's been allegedly abused by P. Diddy. I don't think any of us are surprised, right? I think, you know, there's been so many different stories over the time, even lately with Jamie Foxx's situation with Diddy. Apparently Diddy's situation was kind of linked to it as well. So, you know, there's been a whole lot of things that have been said about Diddy. You know, we always have the conspiracy of Puff and Biggie, and how Puff played a role in that situation. So there's always been a marker against Diddy. It's always been about when it's been the right time. Right. And so when this story drops the way it does, yeah. When this story drops the way it does, yeah, even Usher, thank you, Alexandra Mabako, even Usher, you know, that also is another situation, you know. So when Cassie finally comes out, and I always remember this particular moment, right? Now, I never thought it so deeply until maybe a little bit later on when I was older. I remember at the time that Cassie cut her side. I remember the time when she cut the side of her head, and I always used to say, why? I always said to her, this haircut don't feel right. But I never said it was abuse. I never thought it was that. I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to try to pretend as if I knew. I didn't know nothing. But what I felt like, this haircut don't feel normal. You're shaving the side of your head, and it became a trend. And it just makes me think, like, that became a trend that became one of the in that staple time of us as youngsters. Young girls were shaving the side of their head, not knowing that this was actually something that Diddy had asked for her to do. And I believe it was a form of control and a form of power that he did it in such. right? In fact, I'm going to play a little clip from the Young Jock situation to kind of bring that up into play, right? But we've been in amongst this madness for a little while, and we just didn't know it was around us. We just didn't know. You don't know fully know, right? People who are around that situation know, but we didn't fully know. But we always knew that something wasn't quite right. That haircut told me everything. Like, it was just so odd, that haircut. You know what I mean? But let's listen to Young Jock real quick. Let me get some.
Scarface with that white woman coming down the escalator.
Yeah,
he was in that man's house and he saw that man's wife and was like this. I was watching Puff. The nigga Puff was looking up there. He saw this white woman. It was bottles on bottles on bottles around. It was lit. Puff jumped out. Me and Cassie sitting next to each other. My wife right here, Cassie right here. The nigga jumped off the bar, came over and said, yo, Cassie, tomorrow, I want you to shave the side of your head. And I was like, what the fuck kind of request is that? Like, so when I'm like, what the fuck? So when I look up there, this white woman's side of her head was shaved, my nigga. And the bitch looked good with it. So I was looking at Cassie. I was like, well, I was like, you're not about to do that, are you? She said, well, I mean, whatever Sean wants, I'm gonna do. You remember Scarface when that white woman was coming down the escalator?
Crazy stuff. So yeah, it's madness. I won't lie to you. It is a lot that was popping in that situation with Cassie and Diddy. I think one of the biggest things that we saw with Diddy and Cassie was that Cassie's career never fully took off. After that song, that was a hit song, and her career never took off. And it's like, that's the sad thing about it. You look at it and you go, like, this girl has some talent, because that song, me and you now, I've been waiting, think I'm gonna make my move now. Like, we've all been waiting for that. That song was a popping song. It was a popping song. I mean, she couldn't dance, no offense to her. The dance was a little bit but she had some talent, you know what I mean, and we enjoyed. And then it's like rotted, you know what I mean, like the whole entire time has been keeping her under wraps and under duress, because again, you don't want your star to become too starry now, because if they do, that means they might leave you, they might have more power, you know what I mean? So like he damaged her, you know what I mean? Like, he damaged her career perspective aspect wise, allegedly, you know what I mean? Because nobody needs a lawsuit from him. But so it's just it's so sad to see that, right? Again, we're gonna go into the documents in a few minutes time and break that down, and then I'll open up the panel as well for you guys a little bit later as well. So in about an hour's time, I'll open up the panel. You guys can have your say as well. I'm sure you guys got lots of thoughts on this as well. Okay, but yeah, absolutely, she had some songs, she had some bangers. It's got a long way to go, and it's easy, and way to go. Hey, she had some, you know what I mean. So she had some talent. It's just that she was sucked dry. And I want to say this first and foremost. This is the kind of stories we hear a lot. When I was doing we're back at conspiracy theories, right? When I was younger, I was doing a lot of research around the music industry and how the devil plays a part in the music industry. And actually, I've done 2 videos about this, right? And what's interesting also about the situation is that with the music industry, how sacrifice is a big thing, abuse is a big thing, using your power and abusing it is a very big thing, because you have men who have unadulterated, unfiltered, unrestricted power in a place, and they can abuse it, right? So there are regular stories of women going into that space and being abused. And it made me think, because you see, men become devils in this space when they have power, right? When you have absolute power, and in fact, any human being, but because obviously men are the ones who are in control at this place, right? Any man that has absolute power in life is likable to be corrupt. And in that space called the music industry, there's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of rituals, a lot of sacrificial, demonic worship, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of abuse that happens to young kids, to older generations too. Like, and women usually get the brunt of it because, again, it's about who holds the power in that industry. So it's just like it's sickening to kind of see, but it's also a part of this. It's also a part of this quote unquote Babylon, as someone might say, right? That this is the helm of Satan's throne in a sense, where he gets to he gets to do his worst. A bit like how we talk about Hollywood and stuff like that, right? So it's nasty work. It's nasty work in this place. People die. People lose their life, lose family members. People get sacrificed. There's so many things that happen behind the closed doors that don't necessarily make sense to us all the way, but are happening in people's lives, So, just want to put that out there as well, It's some heavy stuff in that particular instance. Yeah, someone put about the Kid Cudi situation. We'll read that in a thing as well. So obviously, Kid Cudi confirms Cassie's claims that his car blew up after Diddy's threats. This is all true, apparently. So in one incident described in the court papers, which we'll read in a second or two, Ms. Ventura says that early 2012, Mr. Combs grew so angry about her dating rapper Kid Cudi that he said he would blow up the rapper's car. Around that time, the suit says Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. For a spokesman, Kid Cudi confirmed Ms. Ventura's account. This is all true. My God. Diddy, as 50 Cent would say, brother love, try to blow up Kid Cudi. He is the original Joker at this point. No wonder why he played the Joker so well. He knows the mind of a crazy, off the charts, off the wall, psychotic villain. He understands that. And to be honest, in that industry, in order to reach the top, you gotta have some of that psychedelic, crazy mindset, because this is not an ordinary place to be in. You understand what I'm saying to you? It's a cold world in that music industry. So to get to the top to where he is as a black man too, we can celebrate the two thing. I understand that, he's done amazing in terms of career to get to where it's got to. But what does he have to do to get there? That's the question. In fact, what do most people have to do to get to there? Right? Your talent alone is not going to be enough. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to worship? And I've spoken about this before and I don't want to go too deep into it. I've done videos on this already about the aspect of worship and how it gets utilized, because it's all about worship. It's always ever been about worship. And that's all that Satan wants. It's worship. It's for us to turn our hearts and worship him. You know what I mean? And the music industry becomes a vehicle for that, as well. So that's another aspect as well. So yeah, there's a lot of madness that's been going on with Diddy behind the scenes that have, really been working in some space. And I just think to myself, it's nasty. It's nasty stuff. In fact, there was an interview, I think, apparently with an ex-girlfriend that was played, and I'll play that as well for you guys. And then I think it'll be the final one. We'll get into the show. It's yeah. Listen to this.
Because he had caught me texting another man. We was in Miami, and it got really crazy that time. We was upstairs, and he had we were in his closet, and he pushed me, and I fell to the ground, and then he stood over me. So I was laying on my back, and he stood over me, and he started punching me like this. He avoided my face, but he started punching me on the side of my head, and I was just covering my face. And he did that, and then after he got done doing that, he because he was standing, his legs were in between me, so he stomped on my stomach. He had caught me texting another man.
Nigga stomped on her stomach. Yo, I really should put actually a warning. I do apologize, guys. Let me put a warning here because it's been a little bit of heavy content on this channel for the last few days. I apologize, guys. Let me just say this first and foremost. Warning: this is gonna be some triggering content because I just realized the last few days we've been doing some really triggering content. I do apologize. I should have put a trigger warning immediately because it's a lot of stuff that's gonna be like DV, sexual violence, a lot of that kind of stuff. I just want to put a trigger warning there, guys. You know, there's gonna be some heavy stuff. And the reading out the documents, it's gonna be some heavy stuff in there as well. So just a bit of a trigger warning. You know, there's gonna be some things that are gonna be said in here. I think you know, I personally think, you know, there is a lot of stuff like this where you have to understand that people want stuff, right? There are people that generally get stuck into a situation, and there are people also too who are stuck, but they, because of the want and the desire to become something. In fact, when I read Cassie's the documents, the reason why she had pretty much kind of stayed in it, or at least stayed for a little bit longer than she needed to, is because she wanted her album to be finished, or she wanted her album to sell, or she wanted this to be so. So because of, and you know, it reminded me of a scripture of Lot in the Bible, and where Lot, it says a lot, you know, that they in the Lot situation, it said that, hey, run, don't look back, don't worry about anything else, just don't look back, keep going. And these guys like Diddy and that, they lock you in by taking the desire that you want and using that against you to keep you locked into a place. And they know it because they know that you want this thing. And that's actually how the devil works, right? He knows that you might want something, and then he locks you in, and then he holds you there. And it's like, it's nasty work. It's really disgusting work that you can get to a point where you would beat, kick, punch, physically abuse somebody, SV, DV, like, you have to be sick in the head. This got nothing to do with the person. This is a sick, you have to be sick in the head. You understand what I'm saying to you? To inflict this on people, you'll be sick in the head, right? And also, a part of this also is that people become, when you get into this industry, people become numb to the violence and to the hate-filled behavior. You know, it's you get caught up in this world, and you become like the demons that are in this world, the sick, sadistic, nasty type of behavior. You know what I'm saying to you? And the longer you stay in it, and the more that you participate in it, the further deeper you go into that sadistic behavior, and you lose your sense of morality and reality. Why? Because you've conformed. You know what I mean? And you've allowed the darkness to overcome you. And so it's nasty work. Yeah, contracts also too. I think she had a contract. I'm not sure how long a contract was, a very long time. You know, it's a very, very long time. So yeah, nasty work from Diddy, allegedly. But yeah, it's not what you want to be celebrating at all. All right, let's get into this documents then. But before we do, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification of uploads. We appreciate y'all. Again, this is some heavy stuff. So I will be opening the panel a little bit later on, about an hour's time. We're going to definitely get into something, you know, as well. And listen, you know, this is, I did a whole 2 videos on this, right? The devil, when we say that the devil's in the details, okay? We talk about the devil is in the details. What that means is the devil shows himself in contracts. In one aspect, it's not all, but in one aspect, you can interpret it as the devil shows himself in contracts. When people issue contracts, it's part of the devil's ploy and trick of locking you in, right? And it becomes very hard to break out of those contracts because he has you in a hold and a bind. So that's why they say the devil's in the details. as well, right? And you know me, when they say, you know, you're signing your soul away, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, your soul literally comes out your body or anything, but really what it is that you're signing away your rights of you to someone else to control you, as well. This is the thing. I wonder if young Miami is going through it. She might be. I was saying that I don't know if she is. I wonder if Diddy has other people that he's doing that for and allowing her to be free. But you know what? I wouldn't even you know, I wouldn't even you know, put it past him to do it to young Miami. But I wonder if she's getting away with it because he might have other people he's doing it to at the time. And so he doesn't necessarily need to do it to young Miami. But hey, I'm gonna tell you straight. You know, I'm gonna tell you straight. I wouldn't put it past the fact that young Miami might be getting it too. You know what I mean? Because all that smiling and everything like that, it's a lot. You know, it's a lot. So yeah, because we always were saying we didn't, and this is why we're saying again, both men and women are problems. And I want to say it's my last point before we get into it. Both men and women are problems when it comes to this situation. Because we had men screaming saying, you see, when you have money, man them want young girls. But what we don't talk about is the fact that there's a lot of guys too who use the money as an abusive tool and tactic when they end up dating young women. Men are an issue, right? When you celebrate the young Diddy dating the young girl, there's an issue there because money. Yeah. Money becomes they're like, you know, they get these young girls, yeah, and women only want money, right? When they get celebrated by men, it's too much for me, right? And on the other side too, when young Miami's getting her fill, remember we said this at a time, some women were like, get your bag, go on sis, get your money, Meanwhile, we're not looking at the fact that this situation looks very odd. You get what I'm saying to you? Right? So again, once more, both sides of the table have been cultivated and culminating and adding to the bullcrap. You get what I'm saying to you? It's adding to the bullcrap. In that instance. So yeah, I'm not on either side to be honest when it comes to this, but you know, we definitely was overhyping, over glorifying the situation with Diddy and young Carisha. And we spoke about the fact that I did a whole video on saying that young Carisha, you shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be there. Okay. You should not be in that relationship with Diddy. And the fact that way he was talking about Carisha and the way he was going about it, was saying that this is going to end badly for them too. We said this already, you know. So yeah. You know. Yeah. So we're gonna get into this, man. We're gonna get into this. We're gonna read you know, we're gonna read the case files, the court documents. Yeah. Okay. So again, trigger warning, please, guys. It is gonna get heavy real fast, real quick. We're gonna read. And yeah. Yeah. She does have to work for her trauma, yes. Yes. And she documents that in the document as well. So she does say that as well, right? Okay, let's okay, there we go. So we're gonna start reading through it. It's a lot. Yeah, it is a lot. So just be careful. Okay. So it's plaintiff Cassandra Miss Ventura, hereby alleges as for her complaint against defendant Sean Combs, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Epic Records, Comb Enterprise LLC, and Doe Corporations. God damn, he's got a lot of corporations. Defendant corporations, and together with Mr. Combs, defendant as follows. Number one, defendant Sean Combs is a rapper and record executive popularly known by the name stage names Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, or Diddy. Mr. Combs came to fame in the early 1900s with his record label Bad Boy Records. He rose to prominence in the music entertainment industry over the decades and regularly referred to as hip-hop mogul. In 2022, Mr. Combs received the Life Achievement Award at BET Awards. During his acceptance speech, Mr. Combs stated, I have to give a special shout out to you. Love to the people that was really there for me. He named a number of people before adding, and also Cassie for holding me down in dark times, love. The truth, however, is that Cassie, Miss Cassandra Ventura, was held down by Mr. Combs and endured over a decade of his violent behavior and disturbed demands. For Miss Ventura, the dark times were those he spent trapped by Mr. Combs in a cycle of abuse, violence, and sex trafficking, among other violent and unlawful acts. Mr. Combs, who was going to get heavy, guys? Again, trigger warning, guys, before we go. Trigger warning before I go, because it's going to get deeper. Mention some words. If you do need to step out or you do need to leave this part, I want to let you know again once more, you can do, because it's going to get real heavy, real fast, real quick. Among other violent and unlawful acts, Mr. Combs raped Miss Ventura in her own home after she tried to leave him. Often punched, beat, kicked, stomped on Miss Ventura, resulting in bruises, burst lips, black eyes, and bleeding. Blew up a man's car after he learned that he was romantically interested in Miss Ventura. Forced Mr. Ventura to engage in sex acts and male sex workers while masturbating and filming their encounters. Ran out of his apartment with a firearm in pursuit of a rival industry executive whom he learned was nearby, which we learned is Suge Knight that he ran after, which is crazy. Diddy don't play. Demanded that Miss Ventura to carry his firearm in her purse just to make her uncomfortable and demonstrate how dangerous he is, and introduced Miss Ventura to a lifestyle of excess alcohol and substance abuse, and required her to procure illicit prescriptions to satisfy his own addictions. Oh my God. So that's just the opening, kind of things that have been said that he's done. Yeah. I think the reason why she can't do a criminal charge is because there is a statute of limitations, I believe. So I think it's gone past the time. But what she can do, she can file for the civil civil charges or whatever, because I can't remember what it's called, adult something. She can file for that, but she can't file for the abuse aspect because it's for criminal aspect, because the statute of limitations, I believe it's gone past its time. So that's why she can't necessarily do that anymore. And I guess obviously because her contract was only up in 2018 or 19 or something like that. She had to go and do therapy. She had to go and recover from her trauma. Because when you listen to what's happened, you'll realize it's crazy. It's crazy when you realize what she went through. So beating up, blew up a man's car, like forced into sex acts, like this is a lot. Meanwhile, at the time she had a boyfriend. At the time she was doing some of this stuff, she had a boyfriend at the time. Like, that's how much sick Diddy didn't care, bro. Right? That's how much Diddy didn't care. Diddy did not care. Miss Ventura met Mr. Combs in 2005 when she was 19 years old. This is really important because this is a power dynamic that adds it. 19 years old, and he was 37 years old. He signed her to his label, Bad Boy Records, and within a few years, lured Miss Ventura into an ostentatious, fast-paced, drug-filled lifestyle in a romantic relationship with him. Her boss, one of the most powerful men in the entertainment industry, a vicious, cruel, and controlling man nearly 2 decades her senior. Mr. Combs asserted complete control over Miss Ventura's personal and professional life, thereby ensuring her inability to escape his hold. He provided unprecedented avenues for success for aspiring artists, but in return demanded obedience, loyalty, and silence. And when you listen to the account, she did try to run away. But if you listen, I listened to the account, and but unfortunately, he had some people, allegedly again, who would stop her from running away. So, yeah. Throughout their relationship, Mr. Combs was prone to uncontrollable rage and frequently beat Miss Ventura savagely. These beatings were witnessed by Mr. Combs' staff and employees of Bad Boy Entertainment and Mr. Combs' related business, but no one dared speak up against their frightening and ferocious boss. Let me tell you something, right? I know people will ask the question, why did nobody do anything? Unless people are willing to band together or sacrifice your life, most people won't do anything. Because if they've seen what Diddy can do, who are you? You know, who are you? You get what I'm saying to you? And that's the difficulty behind it as well. It's like, who are you? Because Diddy can remove you in a second. You work for him, he can remove you in a second. And also, you don't know the full extent of the relationship. So it can be very difficult for people who are bystanders to want to get involved. Right? It can be. It can be very difficult. And especially if you know about Diddy and you know that he's wiping people off the planet, you think to yourself, he's wiping people that are famous off the planet. Potentially, allegedly. What about me? I'm not even famous. They will never find my body. You know what I'm saying to you? And that's what makes it difficult. So unless you're willing to sacrifice your life, and in your head, you might be thinking, if I sacrifice my life anyway, this girl might be back here again next week. Right? So it takes intelligence and wisdom. You see, this is where wisdom comes in, and God's wisdom, because that's the only way it's going to get the situation out, because this might need a procured amount of time. You know what I mean? You know, so it's difficult for those people who are employees who saw it and maybe wanted to do something but couldn't. They felt some type of way. Following these episodes of horrific abuse, Mr. Combs would immediately attempt to hide Miss Ventura and the evidence of his violent rage. He often showered her with gifts following incidents of physical violence, a typical pattern of a behavior by serial abusers. In addition to physical assaults, Mr. Combs frequently reminded Miss Ventura of his ability to cause serious harm, whether by requiring her to carry his gun in her purse or by blowing up the car of a musician that was romantically interested in Miss Ventura. And apparently there's a situation, it's not in a document, but people were reminding us of J. Cole had a fight with Diddy, I think in 2012, 2013, at a music awards, that J. Cole had a fight with Diddy at the time because of Cassie's situation as well. So clearly there's been some run-ins with this situation, you know, as well. So, yeah, there's some real stuff in these situations, man. Some real stuff in these situations. Okay. Continue onwards. Adding injury to insult, Mr. Combs used illegal substances and threats of violence to force Ms. Ventura into repeated unwanted sexual encounters with male sex workers. Over the years that Mr. Combs abused Ms. Ventura physically and sexually, she again and again tried to escape his tight hold over her life. Every time she hid, Mr. Combs' vast network of corporations and affiliated entities found her, and those who worked for Mr. Combs' companies implored her to return to him. Many went as far as explicitly state that her failure to return Mr. Combs would hinder her success in the entertainment industry. That's what I was saying about this. I was saying that this is how they catch you, right? That, of course, he used a lot of things, but that's the part there. They catch you with your desire. It's the same trick the devil does. The devil does the exact same thing. He does the exact same thing. And that's what the Bible says, that God doesn't tempt, Satan does, right? And it says, but the temptation comes from within. Sometimes I'm not saying that necessarily that she didn't try to run, she did. But I'm saying that the desire to want to be something means you can't turn away and completely leave it behind. Because if they're using this as a method as to why you can't go anywhere, you have to leave that behind. Run. You know what I'm saying to you? If they're telling you that's the reason that your career won't be great, don't worry about that, babe. You might find another way. Just run. Just go. And I'm saying that it's quite easy to say that from my standpoint. I am very much aware, and it doesn't always work like that. I'm very much aware that in DV cases, even if you run, the person tries to find you and try to kill you. I get it. I do understand that. I'm just saying I'm going to what the document is being provided, which is from her team, and saying that because they mentioned about, again, the career aspect, forget the career, sis. Run. Just go. Because your life is in danger. You feel me? But again, like I said, she tried to run several times. So that's not the only reason why she came back. When she believed that she had and again, they're saying this to again state to make it very clear that the premise of Diddy's power is that he holds that over her head. And that's the power dynamic. They're alluding again to the fact that it's a power dynamic. The brother had control enough to be saying your career could be ended today. That's what made her being forced now into a situation. As well. When she believed that she had finally separated from a long-time abuser, she joined Mr. Combs for a dinner, after which he forced her into her home and raped her while she repeatedly said no and tried to push him away. Ha, 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 sha, 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 Lord. Miss Ventura has now fully escaped Mr. Combs, but the harm that assaults, sexual abuse he caused her to experience for nearly a decade will forever haunt her. She has required intensive medical, psychological care to recover from the trauma she lived through. You know what? When did Young Miami get into his space? Anyone can give me a time. When did Young Miami also come into his circumference? Because the supply, it just seems like the supply changed. I'm trying to think when did Young Miami meet Diddy, or when did they become public about their relationship? Because it seems like he got a new supply. You get what I'm saying to you, right? It seems like he got a new supply of somebody else who would give him that supply that he needed. Because once she's finished, then obviously her situation. You know what I mean? So about a year ago, okay, all right. That's the difference. So that's quite a bit of time in between. So between what 219 and now, or 220, 219 and now, you know, pandemic probably helped Cassie a lot. You know, pandemic probably helped Cassie a lot because, you know, that separation, we had to all be in our own homes and stuff. Probably would have helped maybe. She cannot, however, continue to live in silence about what she endured. Mr. Combs remained immensely powerful and immensely dangerous. Mr. Ventura therefore seeks justice for the decade of her life that Mr. Combs took away from her with threats of violence, excessive use of drugs, physical and psychological abuse, and sexual slavery. According to Ms. Ventura, brings this action seeking injunctive declaratory and monetary relief against defendants in violation of federal sex trafficking laws. 18 USC 1591. It's a law. Human rights law, I guess, codes, whatever. I don't know what they are, but we don't have to read that. That's long. The court has jurisdiction pursuant, I guess, and therefore raises federal questions regarding deprivation. Hey, my reading boy, my English, you know. Deprivation of plaintiffs' rights. The court has supplementary jurisdiction over plaintiffs' related claims arising under state and city law pursuant. Pursuant venue is proper in this court because a substantial part of the event or omissions given rise to action include the unlawful employment practices and intentional negligent tortuous conduct alleged herein occurred in this district. So I guess she's kind of suing from a business perspective rather than just you know, business perspective rather than actual, you know, kind of, I guess, criminal relationship aspect. It's more of a, you know, well, I think, I don't know, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? I think it's a bit of a weird one, I think, but I think the angle they're going from seems to be a civil one. Yeah, that's the way it is. That's what I'm saying. Thank you. It's more of a civil one aspect as well. So plaintiff Cassandra Ventura is a resident of states of California, Connecticut, was employed by defendants Bad Boy Records, Entertainment and related entities, all relevant times herein. Mr. Ventura met the definition of an employee of defendants under all relevant statutes. Defendant Sean Combs, upon information and relief, resides within the state of California. All relevant times herein, Mr. Combs met the definition of an employer or plaintiffs under relevant statutes. Defendant Bad Boy Entertainment is a music media entertainment company founded by defendant Sean Combs, which includes the record label Defendant Bad Boy Records, LLC, at relevant times. Defendant was an employer of a plaintiff within the meaning of applicable statutes as well. Okay. So it's obviously that they're going for a particular way of the way they're going about it. So, shoo, it's a lot right now. I can't lie to you because it's a lot right now. Okay, let's go back in. Defendant Bad Boy Records LLC is a Delaware limited liability company with a principal place of business located in New York. All relevant times, defendant was an employer of a plaintiff within the meaning of applicable statutes. Defendant Epic Records is a New York-based record label owned by Sony Music. I think I can skip this part. This is not important. Okay, someone else can read this part. Factual allegations. Factual allegations. Teenage Miss Ventura meets middle-aged Mr. Combs as her career begins. Miss Ventura met Mr. Combs in late 2005, early 2006, after Mr. Combs heard Miss Ventura's first single played in a club and expressed interest in signing her to his label, Bad Boy Records. Okay, all right. So that's a bit of a mad thing there. Yeah. So that's the first part. At this time, Miss Ventura was 19 years old. Miss Combs was 37 years old. Within months, in February 2006, Miss Ventura signed a 10-album deal with Mr. Combs' record label. Now, I want to ask this question. Who the frick was her lawyer? Because they done her dirty. Right? Who the frick was her lawyer? Because they done her dirty. That lawyer is sitting in bed with Diddy, it looks like, allegedly. Because why would he sign a 10-album deal? Where's the safety in that? 10 albums. 10. Right? Like, who was helping her? Like, it's one of my greatest fears. Being on YouTube, it's one of my greatest fears, right? Of signing. I don't like, whenever I see contracts, I'm looking at to see. I said it to a friend. Because what I don't want to be in a situation is this. 10. The girl had barely done her first album. She'd done a whole single. But 10 albums. Who was helping her sign this contract? Who was a part of her team at the time? Someone needs to speak up. Because they're not thinking about her welfare. 10 album. Because me as a lawyer, if I see that, I'm like, hey, look, it's 10 albums. I don't know if it's gonna be good. You know what I mean? I would say maybe 1, maybe 2. You know what I'm saying? Maximum 3. And if then I feel like, I'm getting pressured by Diddy to make it, I'm gonna say, hey, baby, I'm gonna take a step back. I think you shouldn't sign this contract. But I think we should all leave this situation. But me, I'm not gonna die for nobody. You understand what I'm saying? You get me? Okay. All right. So that doesn't make sense. That's a 10. Anyway, Miss Ventura's first album, Cassie, was released in August 2006, debuting number 4 on a US Billboard 200. To promote the album, Miss Ventura made a television appearance on MTV's Total Request Live and BET's 106 Park. Miss Ventura suffered from significant performance anxiety during these appearances, and press outlets were highly critical of Miss Ventura's performance on these shows as well. Mr. Combs, however, sought to rehabilitate his newly signed talent, telling MTV News, "You can hear the nervousness in her voice. And to be honest, I'm kind of smiled at it because it really made me appreciate what really love I have for her. She's a regular person. It just made me appreciate that she got nervous, and it was kind of cute to me, to be honest. You got to understand the success for her is coming out of nowhere. It's just so huge. And sometimes everybody handles it differently." Meanwhile, while clearly paternalistic in noting that it was cute to him how regular Miss Ventura appeared, Mr. Combs' comments rang true to some extent. Upon signing with Bad Boy Records, Miss Ventura was quickly thrust into a spotlight, and was unfamiliar with how to navigate her new celebrity status. Mr. Combs' recognition and glorification of Miss Ventura naivete proved to set the groundwork for his manipulative, coercive, romantic, and sexual relationship with Miss Ventura, a woman nearly 2 decades his junior. Let me tell you something. I want to know where her parents were at. I want to know where her parents are at. Right? I don't know where her parents are at. That's some nasty you know what I mean? Because at 19, I need to be giving some game. It's making me think to myself, I have to give my daughter the game because this is wild. I don't want you to be in a situation like this. You know what I'm saying? I want you. And listen, if it's my daughter, I'm willing to die on the line. Me, I'm willing to die. You understand? If it's your daughter, you're willing to die on the line. You know what I'm saying? You're willing to die on the line. You know what I'm saying? Because if I find out I'm looking at going, you're signing a 10-year deal with and you're 19, I have to stay close to you, darling. You know what I mean? But again, first and foremost, the first thing is, what are we teaching our children as well? Are we teaching them love? Are we showing them love? Are we appreciate? Because this is a scary place to be in. You know what I mean? It's a scary place to be in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a scary place to be in. I don't like this. You know what I mean? And I'm wondering, where's our parents? Were they able to help? Were they new silenced as well? What's happening there? I want to know what's happening there too. You know, scary. It's scary, man. You know what I mean? It's scary. Within a year of signing with Bad Boy, Miss. Yes, within a year of signing with Bad Boy Records, Mr. Combs became deeply entrenched in Miss Ventura's life, almost immediately asserting possession and control over her and asserting himself into all aspects of her career and her personal life. In November 2006, Mr. Combs invited Miss Ventura to perform his song Come to Me along with him at MTV Europe Music Awards in Copenhagen, Denmark. After rehearsals for performance, Mr. Combs walked around in a robe with a drink in his hand, flaunting his lavish party lifestyle to his label's newly signed artist. During hair and makeup leading up to performance, Miss Ventura's hairstylist and Mr. Combs' makeup artist told Miss Ventura that Mr. Combs was interested in Miss Ventura. Miss Ventura shrugged off the gossip and, in fact, expressed disgust given the large age gap between her and the president of her record label. Now, this is just, you know, he's smart again, right? He sent other people to go and say, you know, hey, I'm interested in you. Yeah. You know, so it's a very disguised, dark power move that was pulled. And in fact, it reminds me of King David in the Bible. I'm not gonna lie to you. It does remind me of King David in the Bible a little bit. I can't lie to you. He sends his aides to go and get Bathsheba. The aides tell him, don't go with Bathsheba. She got a man. She got a husband. Leave it alone. David says, I don't care. I'm going to use my power, get her in here. And then ends up sleeping with Bathsheba. I know many people, one day I had to look at it differently. I didn't like looking at the story of Bathsheba that way, right? But in some essence, that's what David did. Because she had a husband at the time who was a part of his team. And, you know, the advisors told him to stop. She has a husband. Leave her alone. There are other women you can go for. But he decided that he going to continue. He going to get Bathsheba. And at that point, what can she say to the king? Can she say no to the king? Can Cassie resist a 37-year-old man who's a president of her company, you know, forcing himself onto her, encroaching on her space? Can he resist? Can she resist? I mean, she could. Now, we don't ever hear any threat that David put on her life, but the mere fact that he's king could be looked at such a way. Do you get what I'm saying to you? It's a bit of a mad thing, right? Okay. Emphasizing the age and power dynamic early on in their working relationship, Mr. Combs positioned himself as a father figure and protector of Miss Ventura. That's the manipulation right there, right? This is it. That's the manipulation right there. Positioning himself as a father figure, knowing that he doesn't want to be a father figure. He wants to sleep with her. By the way of example, after returning to New York after a trip to Las Vegas, during which she endured a brief hospital stay, Miss Ventura, who by then was fully healthy, went out to a club with her friends. When Mr. Combs saw her out, he reprimanded her, telling her to go home and take care of herself. At the time, Miss Ventura thought that her record label was looking out for her well-being and that Mr. Combs had her best interest in mind. Mr. Combs also ensured he was intertwined with Miss Ventura's personal and social life. For instance, by inviting himself to Miss Ventura's 21st birthday party in Las Vegas, he also brought along famous musicians and producers, thereby flaunting his celebrity status and influence in front of a young, impressionable Miss Ventura. Man, this nigga. This nigga. This nigga. Damn. He set this girl so good, you know. Although Mr. Combs knew that Miss Ventura was in a relationship at the time, and even though he was publicly in a relationship with Kim Porter, Mr. Combs nevertheless pursued Miss Ventura. And after a after party in a hotel suite following Miss Ventura's 21st birthday party, Mr. Combs pulled Miss Ventura into a bathroom and forcibly kissed her. Miss Ventura did not consent to this unwanted contract. She immediately ran out the bathroom in a hotel suite and cried. She told her best friend at the time about what happened, but was too scared to tell anyone else. That was the beginning of the madness. At the Video Music Awards the following day, Miss Ventura's boyfriend at the time joined her and Mr. Combs at the table at the award ceremony. Miss Combs became angry, telling Miss Ventura that her invitation to a award ceremony was only for her and not for her significant other. Now, let me ask a question here. What the frick do you do if you're her boyfriend? Real things, you know. Real things, you know. I got real questions. What the frick do you do if you're the man, you're her boyfriend? Oh, is it Ryan Leslie? Don't lie. Was her boyfriend Ryan Leslie at the time? Damn. Damn. Man like Ryan Leslie. But wait, how old is Ryan Leslie? I mean, Ryan Leslie, he 45 now. How old is Cassie? She's 37. It's not looking good, is it, really? It's not looking good for him either. 8-year gap. It's not looking good for him either, to be honest. He was 8 years older than her as well at 19. He's 27. It's not looking good, is it, really? I mean, to be honest, it's not illegal, but it's just not looking good, is it, really? Either way. You know what I'm saying? It's not really looking good at a point in time. Again, I mean, he didn't mistreat her. He didn't, from what we can see, it's not like she's saying that he mistreated or anything, but you know what I mean? That's a bit crazy. It's not as bad, you know what I mean? But it's still a bit of a mad thing, right? But again, I'm not saying anything necessarily was wrong with it. It's just I'm noticing it. You know what I mean? It's just, again, something to notice. Despite her clear objection, Miss Combs, okay. One particular night around September 2007, Miss Combs insisted on taking Miss Ventura out. Miss Ventura acquiesced, fearing that rejecting Mr. Combs' request would have repercussions for her album deal with Mr. Combs and his company, Bad Boy Records. Well, I mean, you got a 10-year album deal, you stuck. Mr. Combs picked up Miss Ventura from her apartment in Manhattan in a blue luxury vehicle. Miss Ventura was surprised that when she got into the car, Mr. Combs was already inebriated. He handed her a pill and told her to take it. When Miss Ventura asked what the pill was, Mr. Combs dismissed her and told her she would like it. She later learned the pill was ecstasy, something Miss Ventura had never before tried and did not want to try. This was the first time Mr. Combs got Miss Ventura high. My God, this guy is an absolute demon. If this is all true, this again is allegedly. Oh my God. Crazy. My God. Miss Combs then proceeded to drive recklessly at very high speeds down West Side Highway of Manhattan. Miss Ventura was very scared, but did not dare to object to Miss Combs, who appeared drunk, high, and agitated. Miss Combs took Miss Ventura to an upscale lounge in downtown Manhattan, where he proceeded to get her into altercation with the security staff, who would not permit Miss Combs to enter, presumably because he was belligerent. Miss Ventura decided to go home, but for the remainder of the night, Miss Combs messaged Miss Ventura, excessively complaining that he left him high and alone. In early fall 2007, Mr. Combs flexed his power influence when he paid a promoter to create a fake flyer for Paul party hosted by Miss Ventura. This fake posting allowed Miss Ventura to have an excuse to go to Miami, Florida, and get away from her boyfriend by using the guise of a legitimate event she had to attend. Miss Ventura was stunned at how easily Mr. Combs was able to recruit others to lie for him. Miss Ventura was uncomfortable with the fake flyer, but because the request to go to Miami was made out by the owner of a record label, and because she was scared to go against his wishes and face repercussions to her nascent career, Miss Ventura agreed to join Mr. Combs in Florida. During this trip to Miami, Mr. Combs provided Miss Ventura with copious amounts of drugs. She became more intoxicated than ever before. Her intoxication lasted throughout the weekend trip, and she wanted Mr. Combs to continue to support her career. She felt she could not refuse Mr. Combs, urging her to take more drugs. After providing her with Miss drugs, Mr. Combs had sexual intercourse with Miss Ventura during this trip. Hi. It's not easy. Hold on. This is a this is a lot, bruv. This is a lot. I can't lie to you. It's a lot. This is madness. I can't even play with you, y'all. Within 2 years of meeting Mr. Combs, Ventura found herself lured into an immediate circle of her boss, the owner of a record label, and the most powerful men in the entertainment industry. That's how they get you, man. That's how they get you. You know, that's how they get you. Mr. Combs exerts control of Mr. Ventura's career and personal life. From the very start of the relationship, Mr. Combs exerted his power and influence over Miss Ventura. This dynamic was fueled by a nearly 20-year age difference, as well as their relative position in the music industry, with Mr. Combs considered a music mogul. Miss Ventura at the very start of her career as an entertainer. Mr. Combs' aggressive and demanding approach to those he worked with made it impossible for anyone to challenge him. And Miss Ventura soon learned that Mr. Combs insisted on blind loyalty from everyone in his circle. Although Miss Ventura had saved up some earnings from her young modeling career, Mr. Combs' ostentatious display of wealth was intimidating to her. Mr. Combs paid for things with wads of cash and would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura, "Don't worry about money, I have money." Mr. Combs expensed lavish vacations for him, and Miss Ventura purchased a car for her, paid for her apartment, and provided her with extensive amounts of designer clothing. Around 2008, 2009, Mr. Combs began to rent an apartment in Manhattan for Miss Ventura. The apartment was within walking distance of Mr. Combs' New York residence. This nigga. He first showed Miss Ventura the apartment by bringing her there along with her parents. Miss Ventura's parents were skeptical of moguls' displays of wealth, but proud of their daughter's newfound success. You know, when you don't know stuff, I'm gonna say this: the parents might not have known. I remember, I think when I was younger, I remember my dad said to me about Freemasons. He told me about it. And every time I asked him about it, he said he didn't remember telling me. And maybe it was the Holy Spirit telling him to tell me at the time, right? But he told me something. He said, in this world, there are Freemasons, but, we call them Freemasons, Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, Skull and Bones, whatever you want to call the particular secret society. And he said, you get to a certain level and you can't pass the glass ceiling unless you decide to join. Now, maybe he was trying to be scary to the point. Who knows? Okay. And when he told me that, okay, I was like, what? I don't get it. What do you mean? Now, that was only a seed. Yeah, you know what I'm saying to you? Because we discussed it once, then we discussed it again. That was a seed. And then I think maybe a few years later, I started researching into music industry, Illuminati, and researching into how, Rothschilds and all those kind of people play a role in how the world actually works. Then obviously, then you get into, the Bible, and the Bible talks about how you can't serve God and serve mammon and and you start to realize, okay, these all are interlinked. You learn about money, you learn about banking, how money itself is a big problem because it's an IOU. And oh man, you know what I'm saying? So once I started realizing, I was like, oh my God. So in the back of my mind, I've always had it in my head. Don't be controlled. Don't allow yourself to be controlled. But again, I'm a man existing in the world, and I'm going to show up much more differently. That's number one. Number two, obviously, I come from a Christian background too. That also helps in a different way. But number three, also, I think trauma of not wanting to be controlled. I don't like being controlled. I have an adverse thought towards it. And number four, I think also what's important is it's the understanding of what an actual industry is, you know, about what the actual industry is. And so I can understand the parents might not have understood what this industry really is. You know what I mean? They might not fully understood what this industry is. Now, what do I say? If I have a child that's got a musical talent that is, you know, blessed with, you know, with talent and skill, what do I do? Because it's not easy, you know what I mean? Because you don't know everything. You know what I'm saying? You almost have to be educated as much as the people in the world, and it's very difficult. So again, you know, I don't want to, you know, try to, you know, downplay the fact that it's not easy what is going on in that world. And not just that, but learn about contracts and learn about you know, what tactics people are using. You know what I mean? Like, as I've grown older, I've understood how manipulate. Of course, when I was younger, I kind of understood manipulation. But at 19, I didn't fully have a grasp of the extent of what manipulation can really be done. So imagine you're a 19-year-old girl dealing with a 37-year-old mogul who has experience of potentially, allegedly, you know, abusing, manipulating, etc., all that kind of stuff, right? And that's what the Bible says: do not be ignorant of his devices. You know, we're not ignorant of his devices. It's manipulation. You understand? You know, so yeah, it's tough. I can't lie to you. So around 2010, Mr. Combs similarly paid for an apartment for Miss Ventura in Los Angeles, which was located about 5 minutes away from Mr. Combs' residence. He paid for many of her apartments in California and also purchased a Jaguar for her around 2013, 2014. And it's given Matthew 4, Luke 4. Again, okay? It's becoming Matthew 4, Luke 4, where Satan says he's going to give Jesus all the riches of the world. It's giving that energy right now. You know what I'm saying? It's giving that energy right now. Like, I'm going to give you all of this and all the gifts and lavish things that he's given her. Meanwhile, he's abusing her at the same time. It's nasty work. All aspects of Miss Ventura's life were controlled by either Mr. Combs or management companies. Every event Miss Ventura attended, from the travel to the makeup and the clothing, was paid for directly by Mr. Combs and his affiliated companies. And this is what we call financial control, financial abuse, where someone starts to infiltrate everything you do financially, so that you have no freedom. Right? You have no freedom in that respect. That's how they get you. Compounding this all-encompassing intrusion into her life, Mr. Combs secured his control over the young and impressionable Miss Ventura by introducing her to a drug-fueled lifestyle that kept her complacent and compliant. Mr. Combs first introduced Miss Ventura to opiates around 2008 and would often have pills and other drugs out in the open like candy. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs has been addicted to prescription painkillers and took ecstasy frequently. See, this is the part what I'm saying about then trying to elicit control over her body. He knows he has to change the components of her mind, which is that he's going to do it through drugs. You know, he's going to do it through drugs. Now, me personally, I don't like taking anything into this body, so would have been fighting at that point. Like, I'm not taking it, Cap. I'm just going to be honest with you. You'd have to put me down. You have to hold me down and put it in my mouth, because I can't do it. I can't, you know. But again, she's a young lady, 19 years old. At this point, it should have been 21, because it's 2008, right? And she met him in 2005, 2006, I think, whatever. So she might have been like 21 or something. Or I don't know. But anyway, yeah, at first, Miss Ventura was given the prescription that Mr. Combs received for a doctor in Miami, Florida. Eventually, Mr. Combs exhausted his supply of pills. He demanded that Miss Ventura procure prescription from this Miami doctor in her own name. Now, notice this. He's got his own addictions. Mr. Combs has got his own addictions, right? Because you see what you're doing, the disgusting things that you're doing, you can't cope with yourself. It affects you. It affects your body. Right? This affects your body. So all the nasty things that Diddy's been doing, you know, and abusive behaviors, he has his own addictions. Mr. Combs became deeply involved in Miss Ventura's personal life with his personal staff, attending to Miss Ventura's day-to-day travel and other needs, including medical care. On multiple occasions, Mr. Combs had Miss Ventura's personal medical records sent directly to his email address. For instance, when Miss Ventura began experiencing memory loss, potentially due to excessive drug use or head injuries caused by Mr. Combs' beatings, as described below, her MRI results were provided directly to Mr. Combs. Mr. Combs also repeatedly arranged for his staff to drive Miss Ventura to certain doctors' appointments. So he's controlling who she's going to see. He's controlling, what was gonna go next. He made sure to control all of that. In this way, Mr. Combs exerted ownership over Miss Ventura, as another example of ways in which he manipulated Miss Ventura and ensured obedience early on in their relationship. He asked Miss Ventura what she called her grandfather. When Miss Ventura said that she referred to her grandfather as Pop Pop, Mr. Combs perversely insisted that Miss Ventura referred to him with that nickname. That guy is sick. What he wants is now to replace your family. At that point, he wanted the power. That's what he wants, power. This is all about power. He likes the fact that you want to call him Pop Pop, the same thing you call your granddad. That's about power. That is sickly. That's satanic. That's satanic. What started as a whirlwind of celebrity meetings and drug alcohol-fueled parties, however, quickly turned frightening and violent. Miss Ventura was also exposed to intense violence that pervaded Mr. Combs' rise to fame. For example, on one occasion when Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura were using drugs together in the house, one of the security staff barged in and announced that Suge Knight, a longtime rival of Mr. Combs, was spotted at Mel Drive's Inner Diner in Los Angeles. Mr. Combs began to get dressed, retrieved multiple guns from a safe, and ran out of his home to where he believed Mr. Knight was dining. Miss Ventura became terrified and began to cry. On at least 2 occasions, Mr. Combs demanded... Wait, hold on a minute. Let me not skip past that. The nigga was going to do a drive-by on Suge Knight. It's really that... Man said he was ready to do a drive-by on Suge Knight. Damn. That is wild. Whew. That's wild. Very, very wild. On at least 2 occasions, Mr. Combs demanded that Miss Ventura to hold Mr. Combs' gun in her purse. Miss Ventura had no familiarity with guns and was petrified that the firearm would accidentally go off in her purse. There was no clear reason why Mr. Combs required her to hold guns except to reinforce to his young girlfriend that he was violent, powerful, and dangerous. Over the next decade, multiple times each year, Mr. Combs would violently beat Miss Ventura, leaving bruises on her body. And after every instance in which he beat Miss Ventura, Mr. Combs used his money and power to orchestrate extensive efforts to hide the evidence of his abuse, including by hiding Miss Ventura in hotels for days at a time to let her bruises heal. God damn. In such instances, after a party with Jay-Z, Mr. Combs beat Miss Ventura repeatedly in an Escalade, including by kicking and hitting her. He forced her out the vehicle on 5th Avenue in New York City. She was eventually able to hail a cab and get to her apartment in Manhattan, where she cried in fear, realizing that there was no one she could tell about what happened at the hands of this incredibly powerful man. She spent the subsequent 3 days hiding in her apartment. Now, if I hear my daughter at this point go like this, I have to be ready to die. You know the ones? Like, I have to be ready to die. That doesn't mean I'm going to kill him. It just means I have to be ready to die. Because clearly, right? Clearly, you are not going to stop. You know what I'm saying to you? Right? You ain't going to stop. So, I have to be ready to die. Because what else is there for? You know what I'm saying to you? I can't fight Diddy face to face. I can't fight him financially. But I'm going to have to stand my ground. Because you want my daughter dead, I will die first. Because at this point, like, what else can I do? You know what I'm saying to you? At this point, what else can I do? Right? I have to be ready to die first. Because this is some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? This is some bull. And you know what I mean? In January 2009, after Mr. Combs learned that Miss Ventura spoke to another music manager at a party in Los Angeles, he became enraged. She had hoped speaking to his manager would allow her to further grow her career and that Mr. Combs would be happy for her, but instead, he became extremely angry and pulled her out of the club where the party was taking place. in the car. This okay. Hold on, guys. Trigger freaking warning. What you're about to read is disgusting. I just need to warn you. What's next is, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's been a bit wild up to here, but this next part is a bit disgusting. I can't lie to you. So just as a warning to anybody listening, this might be the part where you might want to be like, take a bit of time. In the hold on, I need to take some time because that is some bullshit. This next part, honestly, In the car leaving the club, Mr. Combs beat Miss Ventura, pushing her into a corner of a vehicle and stomping on her face. Listen, people can beat you black and blue. They can beat you. But when you step on someone's face, I need you to understand the level of evil, anger, hate, despise, bitterness that you have in your heart to put your foot on someone's face, man or woman. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Mr. Combs' security staff, Roger Bonds, they've named him. He'll be called then. They've named him, so he'll be coming. Tried to stop the beating, but he was unable to de-escalate the situation. When the car arrived at Mr. Combs' residence, Mrs. Ventura attempted to run away, but Mr. Combs followed her and proceeded to again kick her in the face. Miss Ventura was bleeding profusely and was ushered into Mr. Combs' home, where she began to throw up from the violent assault. Upon recognizing the damage he had done and the physical evidence of his abuse, Mr. Combs panicked and forced his staff to bring Miss Ventura to a hotel suite at the London Hotel in Los Angeles, where she was required to stay for a week. During this stay, as her injuries from the beating healed, Miss Ventura began to fully realize that Mr. Combs' tremendously loyal network not only knew about and witnessed his assault, but also that these witnesses were not willing to do anything meaningful to stop Mr. Combs' behavior. She recognized that she was powerless and that reporting Mr. Combs to the authorities would not alter Mr. Combs' status or influence, but would merely give Mr. Combs another excuse to hurt her. While in the hotel, she asked to go home to her parents, but Mr. Combs wouldn't let her leave. She lied to her mother when she asked about an online gossip forum that reported the assault. Mr. Combs, okay, so her parents, she would have lied to them, so they wouldn't have known. It's interesting that she lied to her mother. I wonder if their mum and dad are together as well. Miss Combs proceeded to instruct his assistant to purchase excessive amounts of gifts for Miss Ventura, which were delivered to the hotel room where she remained trapped. At this point, nigga, the gifts don't mean anything, you know. At this point, the gifts don't mean nothing, bro. You know what I mean? At this point, the gifts don't mean nothing. Like, this is exactly what we're talking about. Diddy in his head snaps. You know what I mean? Diddy in his head snaps. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to do some of the stuff that he's doing. Like, it's mad, allegedly. Miss Ventura was terrified, isolated, and unable to see a pathway out of Mr. Combs' abusive hold on her life. She found herself becoming numb to the abuse she was experiencing and became entirely beholden to Mr. Combs' demands. So now she's broken. Yeah. She began to blindly follow his instructions out of fear again, being on the receiving end of vicious beating. This is what happens. You break. She's broken now. And at this point, when she's broken, she's going to do whatever he says. By Mr. Combs' own admission, his relationship with Miss Ventura was like Bobby and Whitney, a clear acknowledgement of unequal power dynamic and excessive domestic violence that permeated the relationship. From the outside looking in, Miss Ventura had heard of others refer to her relationship with Mr. Combs as akin to Ike Turner. This ain't no Ike Turner. This is him. This is him beating her. Her volatile and abusive partner, who also owned her label and therefore held her future success in his hands, had fully exerted control over every aspect of her life. Mr. Combs forces Miss Ventura into sex trafficking. My God. Within a few months of beginning a romantic relationship with 40-year-old Mr. Combs, the 22-year-old Miss Ventura felt beholden to his whims and demands. So it's only been 3 years before they get into a relationship. He has done so much. My God. While in New York City, Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura that he wanted to engage in fantasy of his woman voyeurism, called voyeurism. Mr. Combs said that it would turn him on if he saw Miss Ventura with another dick. At this point, you're right. She's not a human to him. At this point, she's a toy, a living toy, right? One that he can control. This is how you treat your toys. It's not how you treat human beings. It's how you treat your toys, not human beings. It's how you treat an inanimate object. It's not how you treat someone who's living. You understand? But that's because he has so much power, he doesn't see the person as a human being. The first time Mr. Combs hired a man and brought the man to his home in Los Angeles, the man, Mr. Combs, and Miss Ventura were masquerade masks and ingested drugs. Mr. Combs directed Miss Ventura to perform sexual acts with the man while Mr. Combs watched them. He masturbated while he directed Miss Ventura and the man to do specific sexual acts. And the entire encounter lasted multiple days. What the frick? Oi. Let's just take a break, man. Let's take a break for a second or two. Let's just take a break for a second or two. I just need to just take a break because it's a lot. Even for me, it's a lot. I can't lie to you. Let's just take a break. Let's just take a break. Just for a second or two. There's a lot. That's some sick shit. That's some sick shit. Like you pimping out your girl, and you're pimping them out so that they can be sexed by other people. This is against their will. Man. Okay. Okay. Mr. Combs began to call the arrangement a freak off or FO. He would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura at random moments that he wanted an FO, and Miss Ventura was eventually expected to facilitate the location and the hiring of male sex workers. At certain points during Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs' relationship, he would insist on an FO weekly. Mr. Combs would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura that the practice was our thing and our secret. FOs would often take place in hotel suites, including at the Trump International Hotel in Columbia Circle, the Itamaj Beverly Hills, the London Hotel in Los Angeles, the Intercontinental Century City, Intercontinental Atlanta, Intercontinental New York City, the One Hotel in New York and in Miami, the Mandarin Oriental Hotel in New York and in Miami, the Fontaine Bleu in Miami, Beverly Hills Hotel, the Shutters on the Beach in Los Angeles. Jesus is Lord. On one occasion around 2013, Mr. Combs had an FO set up at the Intercontinental Hotel in New York City, after which he was charged with tens of thousands of dollars in damages by the hotel. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs' chief of staff, Tony Fletcher, paid the invoice charged by the hotel. Mr. Ventura was instructed, Mr. Ventura was instructed to use websites. So now he's now even got her researching. He's now even got her researching Hey, this is wild, dude. Who told to use websites and escorts to find male sex workers participating in the FOs. Mr. Combs told Ms. Ventura to search for large black penises on the website. Sometimes Mr. Combs would pay to fly male sex workers to his location, including multiple cities in the United States as well as abroad. He required Ms. Ventura and his staff to help him make these arrangements. Mr. Combs' assistant would help to set up the FOs, including by setting up the hotel suites with baby oil and Astroglide. I heard Astroglide. What is Astroglide? I wonder what it was. Oh, close. What is Astroglide? Let me just Google that. I don't know what Astroglide is. Oh. It's also a lubricant. Oh, okay. Let's leave that alone. Mr. Combs always supplied Ms. Ventura and the sex worker with copious amounts of drugs before doing the FOs. Ms. Ventura was given ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and alcohol in excessive amounts during the FOs, which allowed her to disassociate during these horrific encounters. It became a commonplace to get IV fluids in days after the FO to recover from excessive substance pushed upon her. So this became a live porno in some sense. You know? This is a live porno. In some sense, he's created his own live, sick, disgusting, forced porno. This is what he's doing in a sense. He's pimped out his girl in a sense, and a live, disgusting porno. That's what he's basically done in a sense. That's, you know, it's. Miss Ventura was required to dress up in lingerie for FO. Miss Combs insisted she wear white nail polish to contrast her nails with the skin of the black men he hired to have sex with her. What the frick? During the FO, Mr. Combs would instruct Miss Ventura to pour excessive amounts of oil over herself. I mean, that's it. Mr. Combs would then instruct Miss Ventura and the sex workers to speak to each other and would specifically tell Miss Ventura where to touch the sex workers. Mr. Combs would say things like, grab that big black, and ask her how does it feel as he directed her to perform for him. Listen, if you wanted to do porno, you could have done porno. This is, you know what I mean? But the thing that's getting him off is the fact that he knows she doesn't want to do it. Right? That's exactly what, look, the thing that's getting him off is that he knows she doesn't want to do it. Right? Because he could have easily done that. He could have easily got a porno thing, whatever, and done a live session. He could have easily done it, but he didn't want to, because it's not about the sex. It's about the power. It's about the knowing of what the other person is like, knowing that the other person doesn't want it, but you can make them do it. It's the manipulation of it all. During the FOs, in addition to directing Miss Ventura and masturbating, Mr. Combs would use his phone, laptop, and tablet to film Miss Ventura having sex with the hired sex workers. He treated the forced encounter as a personal art project, adjusting the candles he used for lighting to frame the videos he took. While Miss Ventura quickly deleted any photographs or videos of her sex acts if they were taken on her phone, Mr. Combs repeatedly made clear that he retained many videos of Miss Ventura during FOs. Even when she deleted the videos, Mr. Combs would tell Miss Ventura that he was able to recover deleted videos from her device. On one occasion, he sat next to her on a flight and made her watch a video she thought she had deleted, reinforcing her inability to escape and immense power he held over her. That nigga sick. That nigga is sick. Sick. Whew, that is sick. That brother is sick. Mr. Combs would pay the male sex workers a few $1,000s in cash for their services. During some FOs, Mr. Combs would become extremely intoxicated and would hit Miss Ventura in front of the male sex worker. Oh my God. Miss Ventura was repulsed by Mr. Combs' demands, but between the physical beating and recognizing his incredible power and incredible temper, Miss Ventura became petrified of her partner and boss and felt that she could not say no. Of course. He even would present her with lavish gifts prior to or in the middle of the FO, seemingly acknowledging the ways in which these forced sexual encounters constituted work for Miss Ventura. and that he needed to compensate her for her work. Wow. At one point, he had given her so many designer bracelets for FOs, and immediately following his brutal beatings, that she felt that she was shackled by his presence. Frequently, her anxiety before an FO would become so great that she would become physically ill. Yeah, now your body's reacting, sometimes to the point of vomiting. While kneeling over the toilet, Mr. Combs would shame her into performing for him, eventually forcing her to get up and proceed with the encounter. She knew firsthand telling Mr. Combs that she did not want to engage in FOs was met with anger and violence. In addition, any suggestion that Miss Ventura would refuse the FO or otherwise report Miss Combs' abuse was met with ultimatums by Miss Combs, who would say that Miss Ventura could not go to the police because she had a lot to lose. Around 2015, so this has been, 7 years so far. From 2008, that incident, to this one, that's 7 years of madness. Around August 2015, for example, in the middle of a surprise birthday dinner for Miss Ventura's 29th birthday, Mr. Combs insisted that Miss Ventura leave the party and go to a hotel for an FO. When she expressed she did not want to go, Mr. Combs had Miss Ventura cornered by security staff in order to force her to leave with him. Damn. On your birthday, that nigga sick. That nigga sick. That nigga sick. After this FO, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura went back to the hotel room that Miss Ventura was staying in, where Miss Ventura's friends were already hanging out. Mr. Combs was severely intoxicated, and at one point during the night, picked up one of Miss Ventura's friends like a child, and whoa. Mr. Combs was severely intoxicated, and at one point during the night, picked up one of Miss Ventura's friends like a child and dangled her over the balcony of the 17th floor hotel suite. Miss Ventura and her friends were scared by Mr. Combs' erratic behavior, but Miss Ventura was heavily sedated because of the drugs she took to participate in the FO, and therefore was unable to respond to Mr. Combs' terrifying behavior. My God. The FOs became work for Miss Ventura, and despite her protestations, Mr. Combs insisted on intricately staged and forced sexual encounters between Miss Ventura and various male sex workers. What do you do if you're the sex worker? If you're the male sex worker now in this situation, you must be thinking to yourself, this is disgusting. Like, you must be thinking to yourself, raw, like, I didn't even know, like, oh, if I did know, I didn't know to this extent. That you know what I mean? That is crazy. But for Puff to dangle a friend over the 17th hotel suite, I'm even thinking about her friends. Would you want to be around Cassie? Would you want to be around Cassie? You know what I'm saying to you? Would you want to be around Cassie? At that point, I won't want to be around Cassie. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want to be around Cassie because now I'm also liable to get I'm liable to be in the firing line because of our friendship. Yeah, I might have to distance myself too. Imagine I knew my daughter was friends with Cassie. I would tell my daughter, I have to be honest with you, I would tell my daughter, leave her alone. I'm assuming, yeah, you can't. This nigga's scary. This ain't just an emotional abuse. This nigga is willing to kill people. Nah, man. I can't do it. That's crazy. Anytime she tried to escape, Miss Ventura tries to escape Mr. Combs' abuse. Anytime she tried to create distance between her and Mr. Combs, he would use networks to find her and convince her to return to his abuse. I mean, if Diddy can do it, I did feel what anyone else can do. If Diddy can find you. On multiple occasions, Mr. Combs sent his employees to lure Miss Ventura back. in 2011 during a rough patch in Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura's relationship. Miss Ventura had a brief relationship with musician Kid Cudi. So yeah, in 2011, so she actually had some space. Wow. When Mr. Combs returned from a trip, he demanded another FO of Miss Ventura. She acquiesced. During this FO, Mr. Combs found Miss Ventura's phone and found emails between her and Kid Cudi. Mr. Combs became enraged and proceeded to place a manual corkscrew between his fingers and lunged at Miss Ventura. Miss Ventura ran away to stay at Kid Cudi's home to escape Mr. Combs' wrath. Soon thereafter, one of Mr. Combs' staff members told Miss Ventura that he needed to just talk to Mr. Combs, even though Mr. Combs was enraged. Feeling like she could not escape Mr. Combs and his network of enforcers, Miss Ventura returned to Mr. Combs. He hit her several times and then kicked her in the back as she tried to run out the door. She went to her parents' home in Connecticut where her mother took pictures of the bruises Mr. Combs had left on Ventura's body. Okay, that's probably where it started. So this is 2011, y'all. So between that and 8 years later, wow. In February 2012, during Paris Fashion Week, Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura that he was going to blow up Kid Cudi's car and that he wanted to ensure Kid Cudi was home with his friends when it happened. Around that time, Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. Oh my God. Miss Ventura was terrified and she began to fully comprehend what Mr. Combs was both willing and able to do those who he believed had slighted him. In 2015, Miss Ventura spoke to a popular music manager at an after party in a hotel suite in Las Vegas. Mr. Combs saw her speaking to the manager and sternly told her to step into the bedroom and join in the suite. In the bedroom, Mr. Combs beat Miss Ventura severely. She ran from corner to corner of the room trying to avoid Mr. Combs beating and kicking. When she tried to lock herself in the bathroom, he pushed through and punched and kicked her while she cut up under the toilet. Her screams were drowned out by loud music playing in outside of the area of the hotel suite. When Mr. Combs' head of security assistants saw Miss Ventura after the assault, they began to cry, which is interesting. It's not just her, so I'm guessing he cried as well. Miss Ventura had 2 black eyes, a burst and bruised lip, and a huge whelp on her forehead. Upon seeing the results of his vicious attack, Mr. Combs immediately took steps to conceal his wrongdoing. He forced Miss Ventura to stay at home in Albany Hills, along with one of his sons. Now, if you see this as a son, what you do? What you do? What'd you do? If you're a son and you see your dad brings his girlfriend to the house, which is not his girlfriend, but his girlfriend, and you see her black and blue like this, While there, Mr. Combs FaceTimed Miss Ventura and stated, "You got to go up and put more makeup on. My son can't see like that." Okay, so maybe the son didn't see it, so that's why. She did put makeup on per Mr. Combs' demands. Miss Ventura felt that she had no choice but to obey her abuser. Even though security guards, assistants, and friends saw the situation she was in, no one dared to help her or speak up on her behalf. She therefore had no choice but to remain subservient. Later in 2015, while shooting a movie in Cape Town, South Africa, Miss Ventura began a flirtatious relationship with an actor. She spent New Year's Eve with the actor, but Mr. Combs soon found out. Ms. Combs called the actor and threatened him. The actor proceeded to call Miss Ventura and tell her, you really need to call Mr. Combs. Yo! Do you know how wild that is? Imagine me getting a call as an actor and it's Mr. Combs saying, "Hey, I need you to leave my girlfriend alone." Meanwhile, he's not even made her a girlfriend. Yeah, for real. We don't want to listen. You don't know what you have to endure to cry in a Bentley rather than a Honda. Trust me. Maybe the Honda. Neither one is good, to be honest, because it can come with abuse. Neither one is good because it can come with abuse. That is crazy. That is crazy. In around March 2016, during an FO at the Intercontinental Hotel in Century City, Los Angeles, Mr. Combs became extremely intoxicated and punched Ms. Ventura in the face, giving her a black eye. Nigga, how many times? After he fell asleep, Ms. Ventura tried to leave the hotel room, but as she exited, Mr. Combs awoke and began screaming at Miss Ventura. He followed her into the hallway of the hotel while yelling at her. He grabbed at her and then took glass vases in the hallway and threw them at her, causing glasses to crash around them as she ran to the elevator to escape. She managed to get to the elevator, and when she got to the lobby, quickly took a cab to her apartment. Upon realizing that her running away would cause Mr. Combs to be even angrier of her and completely stuck in the vicious cycle of abuse, Miss Ventura returned to the hotel with intention of apologizing for running away from her abuser. When she returned, hotel security staff urged her to get back into the cab and go to her apartment, suggesting that they had seen the security footage showing Mr. Combs beating Miss Ventura and throwing glass at her in the hotel hallway. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs paid the Intercontinental Century City $50,000 for the hallway security footage from that evening. After this, Miss Ventura left her home in Comstock and went to hide away at a friend's home in Florida. James Cruz, president of Bad Boy Management, tracked Miss Ventura down and told her that her single would not be released if she did not answer Mr. Combs' phone calls. Man, do you know what? I remember at a time, so it was crazy. I remember I worked in a bank. I worked in a particular bank when I was working in banking. I was working in retail. And when I was working in the bank, one day, a gentleman and a woman walked in. Like, you can see she was terrified, right? White woman. And I think she had been, I don't know if she was from Ireland or whatever, right? So she's come in and she's distressed and frustrated. And you can see she's like, she's disheveled, right? A few minutes later, a gentleman walked in, probably like 6'1", white geezer, kind of solid, walks in, and the woman, you can see the woman just kind of like the sheer terror on her face. But because of how big our bank is and the floor is, there's actually more than one exit out the building. So I can't remember what happened. She had a conversation with one of her staff colleagues, whatever. And then she's like, I just need to get away. I remember I was like, what? She's like, I just need to get away. Don't tell him where I go to, right? So obviously we have a back door. So I said, okay, you can go through the back door, innit? So she runs through the back door, and this guy obviously then is looking for her, and he starts asking, have you seen my wife? Rare. She I don't know what was this, some of his excuse, and it didn't really make sense. So I just knew that this guy was mad, right? And I don't know what happened. Something stupid happened. I don't know why she decided to come. She came through the door, and I think he asked me where she went. So I pointed him back. I said I haven't seen her. Whatever. I think I said I haven't seen her, or I said she went out the other door. Right, because he saw her come into the building. So I said, well, he came out the other door, so I think she's gone to a different door. So I misdirected him. Then she came back through the goddamn door that was a different door. So as she come back out, she obviously then saw him, ran back out through the door again, because I think his car was at the back door. Oh, this is stress. So I've also walked out now. I've walked out to that door where she came from. This guy this guy runs out the door. My God, man, it's just crazy. He runs out the door, gets in his car. I remember the Jeep was like a light mint kind of colored Jeep that he had, right? He runs to the door, and he said to me, I'm coming back for you. You're fucking dead. I said, blood, I don't think I've ever pants like I have before. Because I can't lie to you. It was a madness. But so people do try to help. But the thing is, like, it doesn't stop, because it doesn't change anything, because he's going to find you later on. And that's what Cassie's going through. Like, that little help that I did doesn't mean anything, because he's going to find you later on. You've escaped him for 1 or 2 minutes, but he's going to find you later on. And that is a scary proposition that someone could be in. You know what I mean? It's a scary proposition, right? Do you see what I'm saying to you? So, like, you can intervene, whatever, but after you're done, just like they just said in this situation with Cassie, if you look at the story, they did try to tell her, go home. It don't matter because he gonna find her later on. So you have a reprieve for a few minutes, but you don't get away because you're free in the bank. You're running away, but I'm sure he caught up to her in the end. You know what I mean? Still remember that day, man. When he told me I was fucking dead, I believed him. Can't lie to you. The venom that he said it with, and it wasn't, he didn't scream, he didn't shout. He didn't shout or scream. He said, "You're fucking dead." Man, the whole day I was sweating. Can't lie to you. Whole day I was sweating. Whole day I was sweating. You know what I mean? Whole day I was sweating. Can't lie to you. So I can only imagine that Cassie's in that situation from day to day and having to deal with that situation. All right. Upon information and belief, Ms. Combs paid the Intercontinental Century City $50,000 for the hallway security footage from that evening. After this, Ms. Ventura left her home in Comstock and went to hide away at a friend's home in Florida. James Cruz, president of Bad Boy Management, tracked Ms. Ventura down and told her that her single would not release if she did not answer Ms. Combs' phone calls. So James Cruz, you're also going to be in trouble because you're also part of the situation. That one phone call where you told her that, you're now in trouble too. You know? Yeah. So a woman who worked at Sony Music reached out to her with similar ultimatum concerning her record. Incredibly, Mr. Combs even convinced one of the attorneys to call Ms. Ventura at this time. This lawyer told Ms. Ventura that it's in your best interest to call Mr. Combs back. Each time Ms. Ventura tried to run away, Mr. Combs and his powerful network would force her back to him. Mr. Combs' tight hold over her life had irreparable damage to her friendships around 2018. When Ms. Ventura was with her friend Kerry Morgan in the house, Mr. Combs used his key to Miss Ventura's house and came in unannounced. He and Miss Morgan had an altercation during which Mr. Combs threw a hanger at Miss Morgan. Upon information and belief, the incident resulted in a settlement between Mr. Combs and Miss Morgan, and Miss Ventura ended up paying Miss Morgan additional funds in an attempt to resolve the dispute between her close friend and an abusive and controlling boyfriend. The relationship between Miss Ventura and Miss Morgan has been stained since this. Damn. Why did she have to pay? Why did she end up paying if I'm just wondering. Thank you for saying that. That is mad. How did she end up paying for the lawsuit when it was him that was one? You know what I mean? That's crazy, yo. Crazy. Seeing the extreme measures Mr. Combs took to keep a tight hold on Miss Ventura and isolate her from support network and having experienced the repercussions of rejecting his demands, Miss Ventura felt that saying no to Mr. Combs would cost her something: her family, her friends, her career, or even her life. By 2017, 2018, Ms. Ventura became desperate to leave Mr. Combs and his abuse of her. She recognized that if she stayed with him, she would never be able to have a successful career or ever be physically and mentally safe. She therefore became determined to completely break away from Mr. Combs and his cycle of abuse and made concerted efforts to avoid him. In September 2018, she joined Mr. Combs for a dinner at an Italian restaurant in Malibu, California, for what she believed would be a discussion about concluding their relationship for good. After dinner, Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura returned to Ms. Ventura's home, which was paid for by Mr. Combs. Mr. Combs forced himself into her apartment and tried to kiss Ms. Ventura. She told him to stop and attempted to push him away. Mr. Combs then forcibly pulled off Ms. Ventura's clothing, unbuckled his belt, and proceeded to Ms. Ventura while she repeatedly said no and tried to push him away. And that's what she was avoiding. So this is disgusting, by the way. This is what she was always trying to avoid. So whenever we talk about abuse in this way, or when we talk about sexual violence, we talk about fight, freeze, flop, befriend, and I can't remember the fifth. There's a fifth one as well, right? So what happens is sometimes women they befriend their abusers so that they can avoid the this aggravated type of assault, right? See, if she befriends him and says, okay, well, I'll do it, but I don't want to do it, but I'll do it, then it's not as aggressive. It can seem like it's not as aggressive or as violent. And so in this aspect, for her, this is what she probably was trying to avoid. She's trying to avoid this type of assault. And now she decides to put up a fight, this type of assault occurs. So I can see. Soon thereafter, Miss Ventura took steps to completely separate herself from long-term abuser, including leaving the home that he paid for and returning the car he purchased for her. Despite moving away, Miss Ventura's address was posted online in early 2019, leading to fears for her safety. Miss Ventura was under immense duress during the months after Mr. Combs raped her, took all steps possible to entirely remove herself from abuser's ambit, including by entering into contracts to end her record deal with Bad Boy Entertainment. Mr. Combs' sexual and physical abuse of Miss Ventura has caused lifelong harm. As a result of immense trauma Miss Ventura endured for over a decade with Mr. Combs, she has suffered and continues to suffer from immense emotional distress. Following her escape from a cycle of abuse and sex trafficking she struggled with the physical and mental manifestations of her trauma. The birth of her 2 children, however, allowed her a new lease of life and gave her purpose. She credits her children with saving her from the trauma that had consumed over a decade of her life. Except for the months when she was pregnant with her children, Miss Ventura struggled with her addictions to drugs and alcohol. Oh, damn, that is so sad. Addictions that were established and fueled by Mr. Combs. She turned to substances to drown out her memories of her abuse. Without being intoxicated, she suffered from horrific nightmares of forced sexual acts that Mr. Combs demanded she participate in during regular scheduled FOs and physical beatings that she endured throughout her relationship. She had difficulty eating or sleeping, and her relationship with her family suffered. During this time, she frequently had thoughts of ending her life. Yeah, man, that trauma. Different. Very, very different. Very, very different. Different scenario. To rebuild her life and career, Miss Ventura needed to completely reinvent herself. She checked herself into inpatient treatment at a rehabilitation center, where she felt first confronted the extent of her trauma she lives with. She has required intensive therapy and other medical care to recover from Miss Combs' abuse, and she'll forever live with the physical and psychological repercussions over a decade of violence, fear, and exploitation she endured. Although Miss Ventura was unable to speak up against the years of abuse she endured at the hands of Mr. Combs, she has since been able to rebuild her life and confront her trauma. Thanks to the passage of New York's Adult Survivors Act and California's Sexual Abuse Accountability and Cover-Up Act, she is now ready to and able to also confront her abuser and hold him and those who enabled his abuse accountable for their actions. Ooh, baby. Okay. I think this is... Yeah. It's the cause of action. So I think that's it. We can leave it there, actually. I don't need to go through all the rest. The rest is like cause of action. So crazy stuff, man. Oof. It's a lot. You know? Yeah, for real, because it's a lot to go through when you go through that. I can't even lie. It's a lot to go through to go through that situation. So shout out to the guy. I think I'm a bit late. I said about an hour. I didn't realize it's going to take that long to read the 25 pages. Okay, so I'm going to put a link in the chat. I know a lot of you guys wanted to have your say and say your piece as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well and perspectives. Remember, it's allegedly, we don't know 100%. I mean, I believe, but just for the sake of, we don't want to get sued, allegedly, in this aspect as well. So, my God, yeah. This is crazy, yo. It's crazy, crazy, crazy situation. Okay, cool. So if you want to have your say, if you want to say your piece, the line is open. We're going, you know, love to hear your perspective, and hear your thoughts as well. Because I know a lot of people have been watching it and wanting to have a say and wanting to discuss their point of view. This is crazy, man. I can't lie to you. You know, it's a lot. It's really a lot. Can't lie to you. It's a lot. I don't know what else you can really say about the situation except the fact that like old boy is like, you know, done some nasty stuff, man. Man, I don't know, man. Tight. Whew. Crazy, crazy, man. It's crazy. All right, that's a good point. That's good play, Sandria. Let's have a minute of silence and sorry, wrong one. I meant to tap into your other message. You said about prayer. I apologize. I clicked on the wrong one. My bad. Yeah. I think that'd be a good idea as well. You know, just a minute of prayer and then we can get in some conversations. I know a lot of you guys want to have your say, so we'll just pray. Father, we thank you. You know, this is quite a heavy subject and quite a heavy topic as well. It's heartbreaking to hear the accounts and the events that our sister Cassie has gone through. I just pray that, Lord, that you know what, you continue to encourage her, uplift her, and just give her strength to operate in this time and this season. And I pray that, Lord, that the truth will come to light and come to the surface as well, Lord. I just pray that, Lord, that you give comfort and healing to those who have been affected by the situation and have been hurt by the actions of those involved. And I just pray that, Lord, that you know your hand will be upon those people that need it most right now, to cushion the blow and to cushion the hurt and to cushion some of the heaviness that they may feel in this season as well. For anybody out there as well, Lord, aside, you know, Cassie and Diddy themselves, but anybody who's listening to this video, who's listening to this, I guess, conversation now around this topic, we just pray that, Lord, that anybody who has gone through this, I just pray that, Lord, that you give them, you know, love and healing. And I pray that, Lord, that you become their foundation of safety, of courage, of love, of hope, as well. And we just pray that, Lord, that in all things, Lord, that the truth will reign and truth will come to light as well, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Look, I can't lie to you because it's a lot, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot. Reading that, it's a lot. It's a lot. But let me get Jason on, because I think this actually be a good topic Jason could talk about, because this might be a little bit more up his alley as well. So let me get him on to discuss with us. Big boy Jay.
How you doing, my bro?
Bro, it's a lot. I can't lie to you. It's heavy. It's heavy.
Do you know what? Do you know what gets me the most about this, right? This is Cassie. And we know about this because she's come out. We know who she is. We know who P. Diddy is. Do you know how many women have been through this exact same thing with just regular boyfriends or regular husbands? Like, again, disclaimer, I don't want to trigger anyone, but I have to speak on exactly what I've seen, what I've been told. You know, women being locked in like doggy kennels, women being locked in rooms and can't even come out when the guy's friends are around, right? Have to shout, knock on the door. Women who were sexually abused by boyfriends, forced, they were raped. Like, times like this makes me really remind myself of why in 2023 we are here. why women feel the way that they feel, why they have the fear that they feel, that they feel. So the people that they love, the people that they trust, abusing them, controlling them, and again, it's easy to say, why don't you just leave? In the beginning, cool, if you see it. But once a person has really captured you, man or woman, once they've captured you in that control, it's not as easy as that. And this situation is just heartbreaking for me, because it's like, wow, your whole life, where your life was going like this because of this one man, it's a lot, man. I couldn't even listen to all of it. I'll read it properly later, but I couldn't even listen to all of it when you were speaking. I had to think to myself, how are you today? How are you, literally? Because that's all I care about right now. How are you? Because going through all of that, and I'm happy to see the therapy and the counseling that she's had, but we know that most of the time, a person is not going to be 100% healed. There's still going to be things that they carry. And it makes sense why in the same year, she ran into the arms of Alex. He provided that love. He provided that safety. He was the hero. I hope that situation is everything that they both need. I can imagine the amount of trauma that they would have had to deal with inside that marriage. Even right now, even during this period of time. I don't know, man. I don't know. That this makes me want to fight Diddy. That's what kind of makes me feel. And to give a bit of background, I used to study law and criminology, so I looked at domestic violence and SV as well. I used to work for the court system in the UK as well, and one of the things I dealt with are things like this. I spoke to victims, police, etc. So I saw what people did. I had to speak to them. I had to write. Some of the most despicable things, as you would expect, are happening out there. We just don't know about it. 2 women specifically. And yeah, I mean, I know my apology can only go so far, but ladies, no, me and Kojo, we apologize on behalf of what you've been through. We can't change it, but what we can promise is that as men, moving forward, not that we are, but moving forward, we are not going to be men who encourage or perpetrate this type of behavior. Okay, it's just absolutely horrific. I feel for her, bro.
Yeah, man. It's it's a crazy situation, bro. I can't even lie to you, bro. This is it's sickly, but it's crazy because I think to myself, like, yo, her one's been over like a decade too as well, so it's over a decade, a bit more. And like I said, because obviously this is our age gap, right? It's our age it's our age range, right? So we've seen her from young to obviously this old. Oh, she's slightly older than us, isn't it? But we've seen her from her career aspect. So it's like when you watch it like that, then it's like then it's like, whoa, we got a completely different. It has a different perspective because you can see that person grow over time. And then we saw Cassie with Diddy, and it was always odd because we're just like nothing was really going on, but something was going on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so weird. It's just I'm not gonna lie to you. I think any man out there, who is willing to inflict sexual, physical violence on someone, you need help. You know what I mean? You really do need help. But this starts from little aspects of control. The abuser mindset in this instance is it starts from a lack of control. Oftentimes, we heard accounts of Diddy almost blacking out and then going a full foot of rage, and at some points it was calculated, and at some points it's just blind rage. Like at some points he's hitting her specifically on the side of her body so that people can't see it, and at some points he's doing it straight to her face. He doesn't care anymore, and at that point, when the people are in that space, that is where I'm saying it's demonic, it's diabolical, because that kind of behavior, right, is the kind of behavior where you're like, how do you go to sleep at night doing that? But the reality is they're doing worse things behind closed doors. That's the point, right? There's wilder things that they're happening behind closed doors as what they're doing. And so that evil that he's even doing to her, it don't mean nothing to him, because he's doing more evil things behind doors. And so all of that, you know, your heart has to be wicked, it has to be cold, it has to be absent. But in reality, the psychological aspect here too is you're disassociated, and you've also disassociated the woman from being human, but also because you understand there's a power difference between yourself and that woman. She can't fight you back. You know what I'm saying to you? Right? She can't fight you back. And it's just nasty behavior, bro. Men looking for power.
This is why, bro, part of what I really do care about now, and I had to have this conversation at work with things I want to start, is again, because we talk about behaviors here, like how do you get to this point where you become like that? Obviously, there's common patterns, you know, that affect people, that the reason why they become this level of controlling, abusive, or why they don't even see themselves as abusers or anything. And yeah, because I've got 2 daughters, everyone, by the way, right? And so if they ever told me that this is their experience with a man, I wouldn't be able to be in lives with Kojo anymore. That's all I'll say. Because what I would do, because there's no getting away with it. There's no getting away with it. And this, I mean, the law is the law, right? So this money that she's going for, fine, but that's not going to replace
what happened.
Yeah, that's not going to change anything.
It's like a little win, but that's all it is.
And can you imagine though? So she's having to go this route. Let's say she wins. Let's say she wins the case. She still has to have over the head, this is his money that we're spending. The reminder's always going to be there. And so for me, it's just, I don't know, man. As you can see, we're kind of speechless, because like, we've read some of these things before, we've seen these things before, we've discussed the Kiki situation or other people's situation, but the level of detail that she's gone into this.
In this one, yeah.
And because it aligns with what I've seen, with what even women have told me directly, things in my previous line of work, I'm not going to sit up here and say she's lying or that she's, you know, exaggerating.
Making up.
This, I don't know how she did it, man. I don't know if she documented at the time, if she spent the past couple of years just writing down things slowly. But can you imagine what she would have had to go through to actually relive all of this again? And by the way, there's plenty more things that would have happened that's not even in the paperwork. But this is probably the most relevant. And the lawyer may have said even to take out a few things, or she may have said that. Like, this is just crazy to me. And this is why I say to everyone, teach. Again, this is universal. It's not just men, but because we're talking about Cassie specifically, we need to teach our young men how to manage their behavior,
emotions,
their anger. We need to teach them what emotional intelligence is. We need to teach them about trauma and abuse. I don't care what you grew up in. What you decide to do with your life is your choice.
Yeah, you'll be held accountable.
Changes, make those changes. You can't be around doing these things. Like, I've got friends that I don't speak to because of certain things they've done that I didn't know at the time, but now I know. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? There's been controversies in the UK where people have been, you know, let's say groups of artists, and you know, one person may have gone to jail for something, but their people are not saying anything. You know, because how can you see this guy be convicted of this, know he did it, and say nothing, not even support women or nothing like that? So these are real conversations that we genuinely need to have. And you can imagine how many women have not been able to speak up, or that they can't, out of fear of what may happen, or they just don't want to relive it. Like, this is crazy. Absolutely crazy to me. I don't know, man. If I knew P. Diddy, like, if I knew him properly, I'll be going to see him right now. And that's not even a joke. I'll be going to see him. Because I'll have to ask him, bro. All right, what's going on? I'll ask him, is this true? What's going on with this? Like, and my fear would be, all right, so what's young Miami's experience? What's her experience? What's going on with you, sis? If it's not her, who else? Because his other girlfriend came out and said what she needed to say as well. I mean, different people have said different things over time. Yo, man. Oh, no, man.
Yeah, and I think obviously the mindset of someone like Diddy there's always a brokenness before the power. So in order to get to a place, in order to get to that place where Diddy is, that he does this, there's a brokenness in you, right? There's a disassociation with violence. So that happens from childhood, right? That's what you experience in childhood. I'm sure if I go back into Diddy's back past, you'll find there's a association there, right? Because I don't see him as psychopathic. You know, psychopathic they don't necessarily need a reason. I should say psychopathic. Yeah. Necessarily don't need necessarily the reason. This is calculated in terms of what happens is, you know, you've gone through you know, some form of violence in the past, whether it's gangs, whether it's abuse at home, whatever, right? And when they don't solve their actual issues in terms of their disassociation, their numbness, when it comes to violence and to pain and to their emotions, when they get power, all the powerlessness that they felt becomes exuded in how they behave. It's a bit like when we talk about incels on the net that have been powerless and get power now. They're on the internet. They can say whatever they want to say and do what they want to do. They end up acting like a fool. Well, the same could be said for someone like Diddy and others like Diddy who have been disenfranchised and disempowered, and they find their way into powerful positions either through their talent or their music, you know, as well. And this then becomes what they end up, you know, utilizing as a power play. You know what I'm saying to you, in that sense. And so now in the situation, you got someone like Diddy who didn't even necessarily wife Cassie. The brother just took over her life. You understand, right? It took over her life like a pawn, and that's essentially coming from the fact that you yourself are now, you're now exuding that power over somebody else's life. So when you have absolute power, this is what happens. Because in the end, the streets are violent, but so is the music industry. You're going to find out it's just as violent, just as distasteful, just as ugly, just as ruthless. So actually, you actually increase, because you've used that skill already to survive the streets. What more would you not do in the music industry when there's money at stake? You know what I mean? Reputation at stake. You know what I mean? And potentially you can get away with some of these behaviors, right? Because you now have power to get away with it. And you know what I mean? Gangs would probably do more if they could get away with it, but they can't, right? There's usually a stop block, right? That's why oftentimes, you know, police kind of get a blight because killing a police officer increases the violence against your gang. Well, imagine you're in the music industry and you can get away with certain things. Even as me as a human being, knowing I can get away with something. If I knew I could get away with some certain things, would I do them? Absolutely. There's a darkness in man. So, you know, giving people that absolute power, dangerous.
Just to respond to what someone said in the comments, you know what? People like this, they don't actually do it to every partner they have. Wherever the reason is, they don't actually do it to every. They know how to target. They know how to plant seeds and poke and see how the person responds. If the person starts to acquiesce, then that's when they normally take it way beyond where it needs to be. But it's not everyone that they do it to that they can do it to. Predators know what they're doing. They know who their targets are. They know who's able to take what or who is not going to. And even when I think about someone like Diddy, I think after the Cassie situation, I think a lot of people ask questions. What, 10 years and you're not marrying her? What's going on with you, bro?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're gonna grow up? And then we see how he's behaving when Kim died, etc. To me, and you highlighted it, there's something that's very childlike going on with him that he's not maturing through. And I'm not saying he's, you know, I'm not particularly highlighting the typical stuff that comes with a child trapped in an adult's body. That's not what I'm highlighting, although that could be, we don't know what his actual relationships are like beyond abuse, right? So that could be a thing. But what I'm trying to highlight is there is an aspect of him that needs this type of outlet in order for him to feel whatever he needs to feel. And this is where the scary point is, where I just need what I want and I'm going to get what I want. I've done, it's not even computing in my mind that this is despicable behavior. There's a lot of people that are like that. With enablers, assistants, bodyguards. It just reminds me of the whole R. Kelly situation again. There's no way people around wouldn't have noticed something. I mean, if young Jock noticed, you know, like something was up. I mean, come on. And this is where it is. And this is where you mentioned the power to shut people up because of money. Shut people up because of fame, because of your career, because of job. This is how those people, anyway, get away with it time and time and time again. Because in those situations, you know what? The women are not normally silent. It's just that what she says is contained in the circle. Like amongst us as normal people, this is where women are silent. But also there's still a containment. But in those situations, look, you see, she tried to go, she tried to leave, she tried to do this. And his own people went to, I guess, manipulated her and brought her back. Like that, to me, yeah, I just hope friends, family, you know, those who are no longer our friends, that they understand. And they say, sis, I get it. Just come back. You know, let's rebuild. I hope she receives all the love that she needs, because that's what she needs right now. That's what she needs. I don't even talk about Diddy, what Diddy, we all know what he needs. But the concern is the victim, right? So what she needs is really like the world to give her a hug right now, because this is horrible. And the document said she's reliving this time and time in her head. She won't be able to function as a normal person in a relationship. There would have been times where, whether that's intimacy, or whether that's closeness, where she probably would have had to push Alex away, or, you know, or she would have behaved in a way that was maybe quite abrupt or quite abrasive. These are the normal patterns that happens when people get, people experience any level of abuse, but definitely this level of abuse. She won't be able to function normally. So the amount of grace that marriage needs, yeah, this is way more like the after effects of abuse is felt for a very, very, very long time. And yeah, there's a lot we can say, bro.
Yeah, man. You know, it's definitely one of those ones where, you know, the person, you know, this situation, you know, I think, you know, I always talk about the abuse of this abuse in this situation with Diddy and Cassie, you know, is such a crazy thing, because and you said it as well, predators are aware, and in fact they actually target specific individuals, right? They target certain people. They like when it says that she was 19, I asked a question. I said, I wonder how close the parents were to her, how, especially the dad. And I say that because, like, when predators are searching, right, they look for where there's a gap in the market, where there's a gap in the armor, where there's a gap in the person's defense. And it's like he targets that. That's why I said it's very specific what he does. That's why he can't play it off like I didn't know what I was doing. It's targeted practice. Like you as a prey and a stalker, just like a lion does, it does seek for the one it's going for. That's what the Bible scripture says. You know, it's roaming to and fro, searching for who he may devour. And I think this places even more importance on any man out there, specifically if you're a dad, whether you're with the mother or not, right? Now, I'm not saying that someone's going to be out here like Diddy in the madness, but you can't take that chance, right? If you're not going to be close with your children, that's your boys or your daughters, because the boys can become the abuser, or the abused, but most of the times abuser, and your daughters could be affected by this and end up being someone who's abused. And as a man, this is why I'm saying that, you know, and I tell people, say this as well, like, just like so far as you can be there, be there. Listen, this running away shit, it's not healthy for anybody long term. It's not, because there are predators that are looking to see, oh, no dad, all right, cool, no dad's in the picture. She could be a good one because she's probably looking for daddy. And you notice how he positioned himself. He positioned himself as a what? As a dad. The way he did it, like, oh, I'm a dad, I'm protecting you, right? But it's the same thing. So these predators, You know, these predators are looking for situations like that where they're like, okay, let's just see. Okay, only got a mom, sisters, no brothers too, of the age as well. Okay, all right. Now I'm saying it quite obvious, but it's a quick calculation. Because if you've ever played sports, if you've ever done anything like that, you're always trying to exploit the weakness of the opponent. That's exactly what it is. It's a sport. It becomes a sport for people like Diddy. They actually they get so sick in their head. It becomes a sport that they're trying to see. I wonder how much I can do, how much I can get away with. It becomes an illness in the person's head. Because again, this is why I'm saying again once more that as men specifically, and I mentioned this in the Benzino video, I've mentioned this even with Kiki Palmer situation. The failure of the father is a huge thing. If you fail to protect your children, you're actually setting them up to fail potentially, because you're leaving room for other men who we know are wicked and bad to do mad things, because they're waiting for you to to vacate your post. You get what I'm saying to you? I mentioned King David in the Bible. The reason why Absalom becomes an issue for King David is because he vacated the post when it came to his sister Tamar. Right? Once he didn't want to address the issue of Tamar and Amnon, he vacated his post. Absalom said, "That's what we're doing. All right, I'm gonna set up brother Amon. All right, and I'm gonna get him killed." And now David's having to deal with the repercussions of his son killing his half brother. And now the issue then even comes back to him. If you don't address and stand tall in that position, you leave a gap. And that's why the Bible says that where it talks about a scripture where scripture I think it's Ezekiel, where it says I was looking for a man to stand in the gap, right? Luckily we had that man, we call it Jesus, but I don't want to take that scripture out of context, but I'm taking it in a particular perspective. When that scripture is said in Ezekiel about I was looking for a man in the gap to stand in between me and the land, what it's really saying is don't vacate the post as a father, as a brother, as an uncle, whatever it is. Don't vacate the post, because if you do, there is always a wolf circling around. You know what I mean? It's sick behavior from Diddy. Like I said, to get to a place where you do this to somebody for 10 years, you're sick. You know what I mean? Allegedly. But, you're sick. Yeah.
Just to say something that you just said that's separate to this, to bring it back when it comes to, a father's involvement. When I work for the court system, of course, I'm doing my calculations in my head in terms of who I'm speaking to. And I realize when it comes to women who are abused specifically, because there's lots of patterns that I noticed with different things. I noticed how, let's say, between 80 to 90% of them either had no relationship with their father or a very bad relationship with their father. I noticed that the men who were abusers, the statistic wasn't as much, but it was still significant, i.e., the woman didn't have the support system that she needed. And I'm talking about male figures, not mom, not mother. That's not what I'm talking about. But sometimes there was that aspect. I'm specifically talking about men who were not going to come to her rescue and support her, men that she couldn't turn to. But you can understand the dynamic of what a lot of women are in, that the same man who is an abuser is also the father figure, is also the protector, is also all of these things. That's a very hard thing to pull yourself away from. Very hard thing to pull away from. Especially when you get that person when they're young, there is an element of brainwashing as well. This is why we have to really pay attention to what's happening out here. Speak to our family members, speak to our daughters, speak to our sons. If we see something, address it. I don't know, we can't always do that, or we have to, really, take time, because it's also a safety issue, right? But, I don't know, man. This is something that just left us speechless. I can't lie to you. This has left us speechless. And it's not an isolated case. This happens, unfortunately, regularly. But to have this in our faces in this level of detail is still going to leave us speechless, because it's like, what the hell is going on? Honestly.
Yeah, no, and I think Sandria was Felicia was kind of saying it too. 4 out of 5 women are DV or SA victims. Women not having dads is not a problem. Patriarchy, condoning men running amok is what put women in this position. I would even go as far as saying that, which is a good point. I would even go as far as even saying that, there's usually a breach in the childhood. That's where there's usually a start from, right? The breach in the childhood, whether it's a sibling that did it or a cousin that did it, whether it was a dad that did it, whether it was a cousin that was a female or male, whatever you want to call it. There's some level of breach that usually happens, especially SA breach, a sexual violence breach in the childhood as well, which opens up the door in a complete different way. And we can discuss that maybe in another time, but it opens up the door in a completely different way. And that also, again, I don't know how to even describe it, but the way, and maybe I need to study it a bit more, because the only way I can describe it is through spiritual energy kind of terms, right? But in some sense, what happens is like psychologically, I don't know how to explain it psychologically just yet, but when someone's essayed or, from a very young age, it's almost as if the predator senses this mark on the person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like they sense it, they see it, and they go after that person again. So then it often becomes a reoccurring theme in that person's life. So you realize that if someone's been like essayed later on in their life, and of course most women have gone through it. So I'm talking about sexual assault goes deeper. Sexual violence, I guess, is umbrella. But when you notice that people have been, raped or whatever later on, you'll find out that there's oftentimes something that happened also in their childhood too. Because it's like the abuser just sees something. It's like he see, and that's why I said about it's disgusting, because it's like it's intentional, spotting, seeing, and then going after. It is. That's why we call it predatory in a sense. But yeah, it's
And that's how some people can get away with saying, no one's going to love me the way I love you. No one's going to treat me the way I treat you. Because in their mind, it's true. You don't have men in your life that's going to, talk to you and deal with you in a certain way. Or women, in fact. And even to add what you're saying. And by the way, when it comes to cases, I was dealing with maybe 30 cases a day. Different things, but around 30 cases a day, 5 days a week, right? And one of the things that I noticed when I was addressing trauma is how many women were angry at their fathers for not being there to protect them from childhood SA or rape. And it doesn't mean that the fathers were absent. They could have been around. It's just that it wasn't present mentally and emotionally. They didn't, wasn't concerned with what they're doing, or they left them with people who generally were not trustworthy. This is why we speak this way, especially as men, because this is where it starts, where that protective energy comes into it, because we know as men that other men are predators. Other men specifically target people who they feel that they can take advantage of. And this is just something that we notice as a pattern. I've literally heard men say, I'm not going to go for her because her daddy's active in her life. I've literally spoken to men who literally say the only people that I target are people who do not have any type of support system, especially a male support system.
And that's the point I make. So I'm not saying that, again, I want to clarify. I'm not saying that predators don't go after people who have two loving parents or father figures that are home. We're not saying that at all. There are loads of instances like that. What I'm saying is there's usually an energy that they're looking for, right? And oftentimes it comes through, like I said, that they're searching for some type of energy to respond to. For instance, myself, right? Let's say, for instance, I can spot people that are dismissive, avoidant before they even say anything. Just by watching how they move, I can see them. So what I was saying is that it's not that they don't try anybody, is that they get into patterns of behavior looking for specific types of people who operate in a certain way, and they try to see where the weakness is, right? So for me personally, I'm not saying that that having a father present will necessarily 100% stop it. But even that, like I said, you can have a present father, but what might happen is that within a home, there might be an SA situation, whether a cousin or an uncle or somebody else gets involved, that I call intrusion. So even if you have a loving father, there could be intrusion that happens from a very young age, which is what then the predator sees later on. And when he sees that energy, he goes after. That's what I meant. So what I'm saying in the sense of the situation is that as a person, I'm dismissive, avoidant. As soon as I see a woman, I know that whether they're dismissive, avoidant, or anxious, because they move in a particular way. I move in a particular way. Even the way you it's wild. I don't know how to explain it, but you text, you talk, you think in a particular line of fashion, And I'm like, if I can spot you as somebody who's gone for is a dismissive, avoidant kind of person, and also what I started noticing after having conversations with women, it's also people that have gone through sexual violence. You start to see the patterns. So if I can see, and I'm not trying to be anywhere, and see, if I can see those patterns, then there are people who are predators who also are probably seeing the same thing in a particular way. And so it's like, I'm not saying that it solves every issue. Having a dad that is present, that's loving, doesn't solve every issue. What I'm advising for, though, is that don't make it any easier. You know what I mean? Right? Don't make it any easier, you know, in the situation. Don't be the father that's vacant, because it makes it easier. If a predator is looking for that person becomes a more easier target. It's not to say that that's necessarily every single situation. There are many women who are single mothers who don't experience that. But the reality of what I'm saying is, let's not. Make sure that you are a father that is around to lessen the chance of this happening to your situation, because you being present and being available, you know, it can be so important, you know what I mean, in terms of something happening, how to even recover from that situation. So yeah, it's just to say that. So it's not to say that fathers not being present is the exact reason why this happens. It's to say that even fathers who are present, are you present emotionally? Are you present mentally? This also is important too. But again, like I said, it's not necessarily 100% going to stop that situation happening. It's not going to say that. Yeah.
It's just something that helps, like you're saying. It's something that purely helps. And you know, if you take it off this topic, so in the UK, there is many conversations about young boys being groomed into gangs, you know, going to what we will call the countryside, you might call the suburbs, you know, to go and sell drugs, etc. When you look into the backgrounds of the majority of these people, there is no father figure that can actually pull them and say, we're not going to do that. You know, these gangs actually talk about grooming young men who don't have a father figure, and they become that father figure. And that is something that we usually see when it comes to abusive situations. It's not every single situation, but it's something that's notable, extremely notable. And even some of the victims themselves, when they get older, they understand, I guess, how easy they made it because of the reliance on this person filling a particular hole in their lives. You know, coming to them when they were impressionable, convincing them of something, manipulating them. So this is just something that just purely happens, right? And again, this is even just because of what we dealt with the Kiki situation. There is no victim blaming here, nothing of the sort. This is just addressing the patterns of what we normally see, you know, what happens and how we can avoid them, you know, how we can stop some of our children or our loved ones going through these certain things, or even to be able to spot some of the things that they may be going through so that we can intervene. You know, that's a big one. You know, that sometimes we see certain things are going on, but we may not necessarily feel like, maybe, no, you need to know what questions to ask, what signs to look out for, what conversations to have, because people are really suffering in silence, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, he definitely, like I said, he definitely went after her. You know, he definitely went after. He saw a 19-year-old. He's 37. You know, came after her. You know, chose her. You know, he played a role, and he knew what he was doing. You know what I mean? Like he intentionally went after it. Go for it.
Because I got to go in 10 minutes here. So I'm going to give, but I've got to meet some people. Right, I forgot to mention something that could give greater context to his mindset as well. His oldest son, what's his name again? Is it Christian or is it Quincy? I can't remember his name. Not the one that. Not the one I'll be sure, but the oldest son after that.
I think it might be Quincy. It might be Quincy. I think.
I think Quincy might be I'll be sure's one. But either way, I don't know why I did this, right? But when one of his baby mothers, I was just watching something. Maybe it was a documentary or wherever it was, right? And she said her age. In my head, I was thinking, hold on, but your son's this particular age. I was confused. I thought, okay, that don't make sense. So I said, all right, let me go and look. How old was you when you met Diddy? Now, you know, sometimes Justin, that's it. You know, sometimes Wikipedia may not get the age accurate, but it seems like she was either pregnant at 15 or pregnant at 16, but she gave birth at 16. Latest 17. P. Diddy was what, 25, 26 at the time. This is facts. I'm not doing scandals. I'm not Tasha K. Just go and look at just go and look online to see the ages of people. So when it comes to a certain generation, and again, I know it still happens now, there's a lot of people who don't even see themselves as predators, and they're predators. They know what they're doing when they're trying to deal with, like someone says she was 16, young, impressionable women, and it is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, that's mad. That is very, very mad. This whole situation is a bit mad still, can't even lie to you, you know. And yeah, no, it's crazy what's this stuff that's gone on and stuff. So hey, it is it's a nasty thing for sure, man. You know what I mean? Someone said that's true. She was 15, 16. Yeah, that's where it starts from. You know, that's where it starts from. You know, so yeah. You know, I just think to myself that a lot of times, you know, wicked men are wicked, man. Do you know what I mean? They're just wicked men are wicked. They do wicked things. And they'll continue to do wicked things because their heart is wicked and deceitful. But yeah, that what we see, like you said, is a good point. You know, he started before this situation. You know what I mean? It's like the whole Aaliyah situation too. You know, that would have been wild too. Like a lot of these girls get captured mad young, mad young, because they're trying to have control and influence over them. You know what I mean? I'm 25. What do I want in a 16-year-old? You know what I mean? You know, what do I want of a young girl like that? You know what I mean? Like, you 25, you 24. What do you want with a 17-year-old, 16-year-old? What do you want with that kind of girl? You know what I mean? Like, on a real thing. And I guess obviously we're in a different generation now, right? So we're not in our grandfather's parents' generation. Okay, we're in our generation now. So things are going to be looked at differently. We're not going to look at it the same way our grandparents looked at it, right? In our modern day and age, we have more knowledge, more understanding, and also we have more wickedness. So it's like, you know, as sin abounds, so does grace, right? So we need to also be aware that, look, while 17 might have been great when your grandparents were around, we ain't doing 17 when you're 24 now, right? Okay, we just don't have the same commitment to trying to be married and staying married without it being abusive. And a lot of times we don't even talk about the fact that grandparents also had abusive relationships too. They don't talk about it though. You know what I mean? But you know, at that grown ass age, yeah, we don't need you. What are you doing at that age? You know what I mean? I'm 32. What am I going to do with a 17-year-old? Please tell me. Yeah.
Again, I don't understand it, but that's because we're not that way inclined. All we can say is that some of these individuals in today's generation, anyway, with the way people are sick, absolutely sick. Yeah, Priscilla and Elvis, the same thing. The same thing. He was in his 20s. She was 14. I think he was 21. She was 14 when they met. And almost instantly he wanted to be with her, but the parents weren't happy about that. They didn't say no. They just wasn't happy about the age difference. But it took time to get there until she was of age. And that's when they said, okay, go and get married. So unfortunately, yeah, these things actually happen a lot of the time. And yeah. But to get back to the point, I mean, I really do hope Cassie receives the healing, the continued healing that she needs, the love that she needs from the people around her. Yeah, because she really needs it. Really needs it at this point in time. I mean, the money is irrelevant to me. I mean, some people are out there, because you have to mention in the manosphere, were saying money grab. She's just going after the type of money that she would have got if Diddy married her, because Diddy didn't want to marry her. This is not what I'm saying. This is what people are out there saying, so just be aware in case anyone's going to be talking about things they see. You know, quite instantly, people are not on Cassie's side straight away. They said, okay, you've got a week left to use that act. So now you're just going to go for the wildest thing, to the highest figure, and maybe get about 10 mil. That's probably what you're going to get. So people are out there having these conversations, but at least on this side of the fence, you know, just like we was originally on Kiki's side, with Cassie, we're looking at the situation and saying, Diddy, you got a problem. You got a problem. And you need to sort that out. But again, you know, no one's really much surprised. I mean, I don't know if he's had counseling or whatever's going on with him, but all this brother love stuff, happy every single day, 24/7, something's going on with him. You know, so I don't know what's happening in his personal life stemming from the death of Kim. I mean, that hit him. Maybe that woke him up a bit. Who knows? Maybe that changed his ways. Who knows? But you know, this is a situation where he needs to I don't know what he can do, but he needs to make it right if possible.
All right. Well, let's pop off here, man. We've done what we can do today, man. You know what I'm saying? Listen, audience, thank you for joining us for the conversation. You know, it's a bit of a mad thing. You know, and listen, it's not easy again. It's the situation's political. But make sure you guys take care of yourselves emotionally, mentally as well. It's very heavy stuff. Take a break if you need to. Unless something else comes out of that, I'll be reporting on this situation. I don't really want to do more stuff on this. It's not that great, to be honest. But yeah, appreciate you guys. Stay locked and stay loaded. We'll see you again soon as well. Much love.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.